Kia ora, everybody. This is Bonnie Mosen, the voice you have often heard on the Mosen at Large podcast and the Bonnie Bulletin, and also of Studio 70, the show heard every weekday at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Mushroom FM. But more important, my other role, and most important role, is that of Jonathan's wife. And I am here to welcoming you to this webinar to discuss the future of Mosen at Large. And I hope that you will be as excited as I am once you learn what the future holds. Now, I know sometimes it's a little scary to think about what the future holds. You know, are you going to like it? Are you not going to like it? But I think you will definitely like what's coming in the next hour. But I want to go back a little bit and talk about Mosen at Large podcast and a little bit of the behind the scenes work that goes into it. We often listen to podcasts, or a lot of us listen to podcasts, whether they be Jonathan's podcast, true crime podcast, political podcast, or whatever your taste is. And it seems so seamless. You know, we listen, we enjoy them, or we don't enjoy them, depending on the topic. But there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. Not just the person presenting the podcast, the research, hopefully, that's gone into the topic, the audio production, the editing. It's not just as simple as popping a podcast up on a feed and sending it out. It could be, but those are the ones that are not going to get much traction. For the past many, many years, even before I knew Jonathan, he has been dedicated to improving the lives of blind, low vision, and deafblind individuals, not just in New Zealand, but around the world through product development, tutorials, teaching, answering millions of technology questions, most of them which came from me, but also just educating with Main Menu, then of course with Freedom Scientific, and now with Mosen at Large. And I know what goes on behind the scenes, that he does his research. He spends hours creating and developing this podcast, finding cutting-edge interviews on technology and other developments that are of interest to the blind community. That, in conjunction with working many hours, many hours, might I add, as a CEO in a pan-disability organization, in addition to being a husband, being a father, doing his show, watching cricket, all the things that he does. And I often joke that I wish I had just a third of the motivation he has to get things done. Because if he sets his mind to it, he gets up and does it well, because there's a lot of difference between doing it and doing it well. And he is a perfectionist. If something doesn't sound right, he's going to fix it. And in terms of the podcast, it has been a wonderful experience, I think, for many, for he doesn't do it for himself. Of course, he does get the satisfaction of producing a great product, but it's for the listeners, for his audience that's out there, to educate and to empower. And he doesn't particularly like this term, but I tell him he is an influencer in the blind community, particularly where technology or things like that are concerned, because once he went to Mastodon, there was a huge following behind him. And that's what an influencer is. But more important, and the most important thing before I close this, and we hear what's coming up for Mosen at Large, is that his truly compassion and empathy for those who are disabled, blind, low vision, to make it a better world. And I am very, very proud of him. So enjoy what's coming up next for the future, and we'll see you on the other side.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, for that very generous introduction, and also for your patience and support of the podcast, which certainly has consumed a lot of time. I really appreciate it, and I couldn't have done it without you. Welcome. I truly appreciate so many of you taking some of your valuable time to be here today, and for your support of the Mosen at Large podcast. Whether you listened to episode 1 all the way back on the 24th of August 2019, or you discovered it along the way, these last few years have been full of changing technology, social upheaval, and of course a global pandemic through which Mosen at Large provided companionship and updates from the blind community around the world. In 1999, I started Blindline, the world's first global call-in show exclusively for the blind community. You might think the novelty would have worn off by now, but I still celebrate that blind people with a vast array of experiences and perspectives can get together to discuss the things that affect us. So often, in mainstream media, our issues as blind people are ignored, and when they're covered at all, blindness is often misrepresented. So I believe strong blindness media is important, and I've tried to do what little bit I can to make it a reality. I've made various contributions in this regard over the years. In 2019, when I moved to a job outside the blindness field in New Zealand, I thought those days were, for the time being at least, behind me. I was determined to try and maintain a work-life balance and had to choose between bringing back my Blindside podcast, which had many thousands of listeners each week, and keeping my live Mosen Explosion radio show. Since I'd been doing a form of the Mosen Explosion for 20 years, that's what I chose. But I kept getting emails from people asking me if I'd be returning to podcasts. That's when I thought of a compromise. We did a little bit of talk on the Mosen Explosion. What if I extracted the talky bits from the live radio show and put them out as a podcast? It would be a way for me to maintain some connection with the global blind community of which I've been a part for so long. So I decided to call it Mosen at Large to reflect that this would be a fairly informal, possibly infrequent podcast. I bought a jingle package from Jam, which was a lot of fun to choose and have them create, and I published the first episode in August 2019. In that first episode, I deliberately set expectations very low. Here's an extract from episode 1, introducing Mosen at Large. It is not the Blindside podcast. It's not as slick, except for the jingles. We don't have an interview every week. We're not committed to looking at things from a blindness perspective. This podcast is all about me getting in touch, really, and saying, hi, this is what I'm thinking about this week. What do you think too? I'm going to do my best to produce a version of this podcast every week based on the last Mosen Explosion episode. But there are a couple of things to note. I can't guarantee when I'll get it out because this is very much a hobby for me and I do have lots to do, and I can't guarantee absolutely that I will get around to doing it every week. I'll try and do it more often than not. So as you can tell, it's very much looser. You'll find that although we're really geeking out on this episode because it's based on the Mosen Explosion show where we celebrated the 24th anniversary of Windows 95, it is not always about tech. It's not always about heavy political things. It is going to be a very wide-ranging podcast, really just giving me the chance to connect with you and tell you what I'm thinking about. For example, I'm thinking right now about this 50th anniversary remix of Abbey Road and how I am going to get myself in a room full of Dolby Atmos equipment, so I'll talk about that a bit later. But when we do talk about technology, of course, this is one of the things that inspired me to use once again the name Mosen at Large as the name for the podcast, because I don't work for any technology companies anymore. And some people would say when I was offering my opinions on things, you are just a shill for, insert company name here, that I happen to be working for. Well, I'm not working for anybody now in that sector, so I get to say what I like, and I jolly well will, and I'm sure that other people will have their views as well. So that's the extract from episode 1. One of my favourite lines, which I probably have quoted far too often over the years, is from John Lennon. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. Mosen at Large really took off. It wasn't long until we were getting, by blind community standards, very large listener numbers. As a result, the talk content on the Mosen Explosion dramatically increased, making those who liked the musical emphasis of the Mosen Explosion very grumpy. In the end, I accepted the inevitable, moved the Mosen Explosion to a weekday voice-tracked format, and Mosen at Large occupied the 3-hour Saturday slot on Mushroom FM, formerly occupied by the Mosen Explosion, filling it easily. I like to think I can get a lot done, but eventually packaging the show both for a 3-hour presentation on Mushroom FM and then as a podcast was way too much work given everything else I have to do. So we went podcast only in 2021. I cannot tell you how truly grateful I am that listener numbers have continued to increase. Mosen at Large is now not the podcast I started back in 2019. Back then, I had no intention of doing time-consuming things like interviews, which, if you're going to do them well, take ages to research and edit. Similarly, product demos take a long time to produce, and so does reading the many listener contributions we get. I do my best to get these things recorded and edited before work, after work, and in weekends. But it's a big job, and it's possible that if things stay as they are, I may burn out. At this point, you may be thinking that I'm about to say that the workload is too high and I'm discontinuing the podcast. Yes, the workload is very high, but I am not discontinuing the podcast. I have, however, rethought it, and I'm making some changes that will be good for me and I believe give you a better podcast. These changes reflect what the podcast has become, and I'm asking for your help to make its ongoing production sustainable. I've been thinking about some of these things for a very long time. I knew myself well enough to know that when the time was right, it would all start to fall into place. And over the last few months, it has. What I'm announcing today is the culmination of months of thought, planning, and hard work. First, the podcast will no longer be known as Mosen at Large. Changing a popular brand is a big undertaking, but it is the right thing to do. When I started Mosen at Large, it was about me keeping in touch. What we've built together over these last few years, though, is a community where people contribute opinions, tips, and the occasional demo. Keeping my name in the title of the podcast does not give credit to the community we've become. I knew that when the right name popped into my head, it would be time to start making these moves. One morning, some months ago, I woke up with the name in my head. The name resonated with me so strongly that I felt sure I must have heard it before, that someone else must have grabbed it. So I opened up Google and I typed in the name in quotes, which limits the search results to a specific phrase. And to my astonishment and absolute delight, Google returned 0 results. And that's very rare to search and get 0 results back from Google. It was at that point that I began seriously working on this project. So today, I'd like to introduce you to the new name and brand for the podcast. We've covered a lot of technology on the podcast, but what has distinguished us from many other podcasts is that it is not an exclusively technology-focused podcast. We've covered many other issues too, including employment, parenting, relationships, language issues, literacy, and literature and philosophy. So what's the common thread that unites all these topics? I believe it's that we all want to live the best life possible with blindness and low vision. Depending on religious or spiritual beliefs, views will vary about whether this is the only life we have, but hopefully we can all agree that we definitely have this life, so we should make the best of it. And that's why, as of today, the podcast formerly known as Mosen at Large is called Living Blindfully. It's a powerful title that speaks to what this podcast is all about, enjoying a full life as someone who is blind or low vision. Living Blindfully discusses not just tips and tricks to help us live that full life, it also tackles head-on the barriers to doing so, whether they be attitudinal, accessibility, or legislative. I'm confident that while retaining our wonderful existing community, Living Blindfully will expand it. If you're familiar with my work over the years, you'll know the kind of thing you're likely to hear if you tune into a podcast called Mosen at Large. But Living Blindfully speaks for itself, and I hope will encourage even more people to join us and broaden the range of perspectives we have to share. It's a positive message, but it's also a realistic message. Living Blindfully has a new logo. The words are written in black. Living is written in uppercase in a simple computer font. Blindfully is written in a friendly, handwritten font with a pale blue drop shadow. Fully is underlined for emphasis. I want to thank our graphics designer, Nadia Jenner, for working with me on the logo concepts and for providing such helpful description she could have a secondary career as an audio describer. At some point in the not-too-distant future, you'll find that logo on a range of new Living Blindfully merchandise, so you can show your support for the podcast while also ending up with some useful clothing and household items. From now on, to contribute to Living Blindfully, you can send an email to opinion@livingblindfully.com. As before, you can attach an audio clip or write the email down. We're using the same phone number as before. Living Blindfully is not a new podcast. It is the same podcast you listen to now with substantial improvements. We're not, therefore, starting the episode number at 1 again, and you won't need to change your podcast client. In most cases, the name of the podcast in your podcast client is going to change by itself without you having to do anything. Old Mosen at Large episodes will continue to be available in the podcast feed and via our brand new website. I want to spend some time showing off the website because it's been purpose-built for this podcast and assists you to get to the information you want with maximum efficiency. Mosen at Large was available as part of my personal website at mosen.org. It was a good solution for a personal podcast. It increasingly became an inadequate solution as the podcast became a repository of information you may want to refer to long after the podcast episode was published. Because I haven't needed to rush this rebranding project, we've tried several ways of approaching the website development. We experimented with what it would be like using a content management system designed specifically for podcasters. But I'm a finicky, particular kind of guy, and those solutions, while simple to use, didn't provide us with the degree of customization I was happy with. In the end, we scrapped the first version of the Living Blindfully site that was based on one of these tools and built it from the ground up using WordPress. The credit for most of this work goes to my daughter, Heidi Taylor, whose voice will be very familiar to many of you here today. I thank her for her patience and considerable effort, and for not throwing her hands up in absolute horror when I trashed the first version of this site and started all over again. You can find the new website at livingblindfully.com. In introducing you to the website, there are a few features I'd like to highlight. First, there is our online player for episodes from which you can download the episode as an MP3. The player I've chosen isn't quite as friendly as I would like, but it is usable. We're using this particular player for one important reason. The podcast will continue to be segmented by chapters. Episodes are long, but if you use a podcast player that supports chapter marks, you can easily skip between sections of the show that interest you. Some podcast players even let you build up a playlist of just the chapters you want to hear. Chapter marks aren't supported universally, particularly in Windows and on proprietary blindness players, and I want to bring the benefits of chapters to a wider audience. Let me show you how we've done that. I have a web browser window open, and I'm currently on the Living Blindfully website.
Living Blindfully, the podcast about leading your best life with blindness and low vision, Microsoft Edge.
Feel free to explore the website at your leisure. I'd like to bring up the list of links. I'm using JAWS for this demonstration.
Links list dialog.
And I'm going to go to Episodes.
Episodes, 4 of 15.
And press Enter.
Episodes Living Blindfully. Episodes Living Blindfully. 6 regions, 12 headings and 60 links. 1 episodes.
You will get 10 episodes per page. You can scroll through all the way back to episode 1, and each episode is navigable by heading. So I'm going to navigate by heading.
Episode 221, an upcoming webinar announcing the future of this podcast. The Be My Eyes virtual volunteer. Sonus has new speakers and features. Heading level 2 link.
And I'm going to press Enter to open the episode.
Episodes Living Blindfully, main region, episode 221.
The controls have a number sign at the beginning, so if you want to bring up the list of links and just start to play the episode, you can do that and just press the number sign and you will find the controls. They all start with a number sign. But what I'm going to do is get to the show notes. The main body of the page for the episode starts with a heading level 1, so I'll press the number 1 in JAWS to navigate to it.
Episode 221.
Now, normally in the show notes, I start with a Māori greeting from New Zealand, kia ora, so I'm going to search on that just to speed this up. You'll be able to find other things on this page, like links to subscribe using your favorite podcast app or service. It's all here, but I'm going to search for kia ora and press Enter.
Key or Mosen at larges.
There we go.
Easily skip between segments. Here are the topics. Can we claim this area? Visited link. Join me for an announcement about this podcast's future. 1 o'clock. ChatGPT turns its hand to punditry about the webinar's purpose. 4:47.
This section of the podcast occurs 4 minutes and 47 seconds into it. We're working with the creator of this technology on trying to make this a little bit more obvious that this is actually a clickable timestamp. It does show up in some screen readers as clickable better than others, and browser also seems to make a difference. I'm told that this is JavaScript and that it may be a bit more difficult than we would like to turn these things into hyperlinks. So I want to show you how this works because it's pretty cool. Let's go to the end of this line in JAWS.
Blank, left bracket 4:47 right bracket.
And there's the time in parentheses 4:47. If I press enter now, it'll jump there.
1x.
Not a week has gone by lately where we haven't talked in some form or other about ChatGPT. I'll just stop that, and there we have it. So the trick is, if you see a timestamp in the show notes for each episode, make sure that your screen reader's virtual cursor or browse mode or whatever it chooses to call it is on the time. Press enter and you'll be able to jump straight there. The best way to listen to Living Blindfully is still subscribing to it in your favorite podcast app or whatever device you use to play podcasts. That way the podcast comes to you when it's released. You don't have to do anything to get it. It's just there. So it's far more convenient. But I am aware that a lot of people do choose to use an online player. So hopefully we're providing you with a much better, more flexible experience. The next feature of the website I'd like to show you is that we've built up a wealth of useful information on the podcast over the last nearly 4 years, but it hasn't been easy to find something that you know we talked about at some point, but you don't remember when. We've addressed this problem with a search engine that is built right in to the Living Blindfully website. We've made that as easy as possible to access. All you have to do on any page of livingblindfully.com is jump to the edit field. And in JAWS and many other screen readers, you would just press the letter E to do that.
Search for, edit, search.
I'll press enter.
Search for, edit.
And I'm going to type in Samsung because we will have talked about various Samsung things over the years. So I'll press enter after typing in Samsung.
List with 14 items. Search results for Samsung Living Blindfully document. 6 regions, 10 headings and 36 links.
You get 10 search results per page, so I'll press H to navigate by heading.
The podcast about 60 search results found heading level 1. Episode 154, New Tech from Apple and Google, What Games Can a Blind Person Play with Their Sighted Kids, and a review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G heading level 2 link. Episode 96, Nick Zamorelli reviews the new version of Google Talkback included with Samsung smartphones heading level 2 link. Episode 43, Review and demonstration of the Samsung TU8500 Smart TV from a blindness perspective heading level 2 link.
It's going to provide the most relevant search results first. So if the word Samsung appears in an episode title, you'll get those first. As you go through, though, it is going to search the show notes, and yes, it does also index the transcripts. Let me introduce another handy feature. Sometimes I'll make a reference to a past episode of the show. For example, if a listener writes in to express concern about an accessibility overlay that's come to a website that they use frequently, I might remind listeners that we comprehensively covered the issue in episode 105. Wouldn't it be great if, armed with that information, there were an easy way to get to that episode? Now there is. All you have to do is type in the website name, a slash, and then the number of the episode. So I'm going to type
exit list
in the address bar, livingblindfully.com/105 and press enter.
Episode 105, The Accessibility Controversy. Can AI make the web fully accessible in a few short years, or might it make matters worse? Living Blindfully Microsoft Edge page. Episode 100.
And there's the episode which you can play or download or skip between segments of. Next, I want to talk about the Fediverse. As you'll know if you listened to my Mastodon segment back in episode 206, and you know how to get there now, the Fediverse is the name given to a series of federated or interconnected servers. The most famous Fediverse technology is Mastodon, which has gained a phenomenal number of new users thanks to changes at Twitter. One of those users is me, and I want to thank some of our Living Blindfully community who had been trying to persuade me for yonks to give Mastodon a try. They had to put up with my skepticism, but were still very welcoming when I eventually made it. Living Blindfully has its own Mastodon instance, and if you want the experience from Living Blindfully that you got from the Mosen at Large Mastodon account, and before that, the Mosen at Large Twitter account, you can follow podcast at livingblindfully.social. That's podcast at livingblindfully.social. But before you rush off and do that, if you're following the Mosen at Large Mastodon account already, I will be performing a migration of that account shortly, so hold on and it will all be taken care of. When you're following podcast at livingblindfully.social, you'll see toots the moment a new episode and transcript are published, as well as items of news, mainly tech news, that I think our community might be interested in. You'll also see preview posts telling you what's coming up. But the Living Blindfully website itself is also part of the Fediverse. This gives you full, granular control over what you receive from the Living Blindfully podcast. If you follow podcast at livingblindfully.social, you'll get everything. But let's say you're only interested in audio episodes, or only interested in transcripts, or you're not interested in the news stories I share. Let's say you already get the podcast episodes pushed to your podcast client, so you don't need those in your Mastodon client, but you would like posts about what's coming up. All this is possible. To follow announcements about upcoming episodes, follow Jonathan at www.livingblindfully.com. Note that the www in all these addresses is necessary. To receive a toot every time we publish a new audio episode, follow episodes at www.livingblindfully.com. Finally, to be notified when a transcript is published, you can follow transcripts at www.livingblindfully.com. Living Blindfully continues to be elsewhere on the internet, including Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a bit finicky, a bit of a perfectionist, and up until now, I've produced the podcast on my own so it meets my standards. I set up my own interviews, do my own research, edit interviews so they flow well, and I proof the transcripts, making as many corrections as I can. I think the podcast has grown sufficiently that it's time for a different approach, and I've realized some of those things are not the best use of my time. If I could be free of some of these tasks, I can do an even better podcast for you because I'd have more time to do the things that make this podcast unique. Hiring a virtual assistant to do the setup, getting an audio editor on board to whip the interviews into shape, having someone else proof the transcriptions all cost money. While I don't expect to get rich from this podcast, I can't afford for it to cost me many hundreds of dollars every time I put out an episode. That's why I've been considering revenue generation options, so I'd have enough money to clear the deck a bit of these tasks. Internet NZ started me on this track when they funded transcripts for some years, and now Numa Solutions has become a valued partner and taken over the transcript sponsorship, thanks to Matt and Mike for all their support and encouragement. Deaf-blind people are excluded from discourse about our issues, and for that matter, public discourse in general, far too often. I'm very grateful that we've created a community that includes and values them. It's my goal that if at all possible, whenever we use some of this new revenue to have others work on the podcast, that work should be carried out by people who are blind or have low vision. I want to share the work, share the success, and keep it in our community. I've given very careful thought to how to do this in a way that doesn't exclude anyone, so I'd like to talk you through my thinking process and what I've arrived at. Living Blindfully will seek to raise funds to cover these costs from two sources. First, advertising or sponsorship initiatives, and second, a new premium tier for the podcast called Living Blindfully Plus. For some time, I was investigating involving a partner in the selling of advertising slots on the podcast. You're probably used to hearing these if you're a regular podcast listener, where you often hear an ad before the show starts, one or two in the middle of the podcast, and one or two at the end. There was a company interested in taking on Mosen at Large, and I got some way down the track before deciding that it just didn't feel right. I would like to have more time to do the things for the podcast that will give you high quality content, but I don't want to sell the soul of the podcast in the process. If I took on a third-party agency to do this, you might get ads for all sorts of things that don't suit our community or the culture of this podcast. Not many people are going to be very happy to hear, for example, ads for motor vehicles before this podcast, and there are other brands I'd have a high level of discomfort with if they appeared on this podcast. So I've decided to do it the more labor-intensive way and work with partners who are specifically interested in engaging with our community. It will take more work, and it will take longer to come up to speed, but it also means I won't run an ad on the podcast unless I'm comfortable with the company that wants to advertise. I'll have no hesitation in saying thanks, but no thanks if I feel that the company isn't a good fit for the podcast. If you happen to run a small business, or for that matter a large one, and you'd like to discuss an ad campaign, please get in touch by email. contact@livingblindfully.com is the administrative address for the podcast. Next, I'd like to introduce Living Blindfully Plus. Living Blindfully Plus is a way for you to say, in a very tangible way, yes, this podcast is something I value, I want it to keep going, I want to support it, I would miss it if it weren't around. There are various models used by podcasts to offer a premium tier like this, including making premium content available to those who pay a subscription, and having tiers of support, where the more you pay, the more you get. As we've discussed many times on the podcast, money is tight in the blind community, and there is plenty of need. I don't know if I can make my plan for Living Blindfully Plus generate enough revenue to achieve its objectives, but I want to give it a try before limiting any content to those who pay. I like to think that if I come up with a fair, innovative way to add value for you without excluding anyone from the content we offer, people will see I'm trying to do the right thing by everyone and might support what I'm trying to do. So here's my initial model for Living Blindfully Plus. First, let's get the big one out of the way. How much does it cost? And the answer to that is whatever you think it's worth or whatever you feel able to afford right now. If you can only manage $1 per month, you'll get the same access as someone who pays $100 per month. Why would someone pay $100 per month when they can get the same thing as someone paying $1? Well, I doubt that we'll get many, if any, people paying that much, but I believe there is a lot of appreciation for the community we've built here, a community where we share quality information and where we've managed something rare to discuss complex and at times contentious issues in a climate of mutual respect. We've got each other's backs in this community, and I believe someone who can afford to might pay a little more on behalf of those who genuinely can't afford to. If you can't or choose not to subscribe to Living Blindfully Plus, at least while I see if this experiment works, you won't be deprived of any content at all. I would rather not deprive you of useful information just because you might be going through a rough time financially. There will, however, be a 72-hour delay before you get each episode. Living Blindfully Plus members will get the podcast on its usual publication date. It will become available 3 days later for other listeners. So when you become a subscriber to Living Blindfully Plus for as little as $1 a month, you'll get early access to episodes. In the near future, if ads become more abundant, you'll get a special commercial-free version of the episode, but that won't happen initially. You'll get special heads-up notifications about upcoming episodes and a chance to contribute your questions to people I interview. At some point in the near future, I'll also experiment with recording some of those interviews while logged into Zoom so that you can ask questions in person. I'm experimenting with other premium benefits as well, and will have more to say about those as they roll out. But what I hope will be most important is that you'll be investing in making this podcast even better by helping me offload a lot of the tasks that someone else can do. You can subscribe with any major credit card, and sign up for a month, requiring you to renew every time it expires, or you can sign up for a recurring payment, which you can cancel anytime you want. I hope you'll give consideration to a recurring payment to show your support so you can set it and forget it. When you become a member of Living Blindfully Plus, you get your own personal RSS feed that you copy and paste into your podcast application or blindness player. It's this special RSS feed that belongs to you that will give you early access to the episodes. There is one very important thing to understand. Pricing is in New Zealand dollars, and that's great news for most of you. For example, $1 New Zealand dollar right now equates to about 62 American cents. So if you make a $10 contribution per month, in the US, it's only going to cost you $6.20. To do the conversion, just ask your favorite personal assistant to convert $1 New Zealand dollar to whatever your currency is. To join Living Blindfully Plus, you can subscribe now at livingblindfully.com/plus. That's livingblindfully.com/plus. The word plus is written out. In conclusion, let's recap. Living Blindfully is the descriptive, inclusive new name for the podcast that until today was called Mosen at Large. There's a website with a bunch of attractive new features like search and getting to the episode you want, as well as getting precisely to where you want to be in each episode. The website is tightly integrated with the Fediverse, and I hope that new sources of revenue will allow me to give you an even better podcast. I look forward to finding out who is the first member of Living Blindfully Plus. It is a true honor to be presenting this podcast both with and for you. What I've announced today is the culmination of months of careful planning and implementation. What makes all of that worthwhile is the fact that now you get to experience all we've been working on. Thank you for being here and for all your support. Continue to live a blindful life, whether it be harnessing success with your four-legged companion or showing the world that with your cane, you're able. And now, the bit you've been waiting for, we'll open it up for some Q&A. And let me introduce the star of the show. Heidi Taylor is here. Well, she's not actually here. She's in our Wanganui studio, as it were. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you for that kind introduction.
Yes. Well, you are going to look after the buttons and things so that I can concentrate on the answers. I can hear that a whole bunch of hands are going up. And I also want to, I just see on the email, we've already got some subscribers to Living Blindfully Plus. So thank you all very much.
That's amazing.
It is wonderful. I really do appreciate that. All right. So let's, who have we got first? Because I see the hands are just going up and up here. I'm going to actually just stop my notifications of it, actually. There we go. Right. Who are we going to first?
Liel Ben Simon.
Liel, in Israel. This is always...
Jonathan.
There we go. I hear you. How are you doing?
I can do very well. Fine, thanks. I would like to ask a question about your planned monthly subscription, I think.
Mm-hmm.
How can I know what it costs in Israel?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Do we have to convert the New Zealand dollars to?
Oh, if you ask Siri
well?
or your Alexa device or any device, you can just say convert $1 New Zealand dollar to whatever your currency is, and it will tell you what the answer is.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you can do it any currency you want. You can say, for example, convert to New Zealand dollars. Yeah.
I like the podcast and give up.
Yes, that will work in whatever personal assistant that you have. Yeah.
Keep up for the good work. I like it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, let's go to, we've got a few hands raised, so we'll keep it moving on. Who's next, Heidi?
Kevin Thran.
Yep, Kevin from Malaysia, where it must be the middle of the night, I think. So thank you for being up in the middle of the night.
Hey, Jonathan. Hey, Heidi. Yes, it's about 4:40 a.m. in
You keep crazy
Malaysia.
Hours like me.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for this for very long, in a way that the listeners can be, or the audience can actively contribute to the podcast in a very meaningful way. And I laud for all your work, and it's amazing, to look forward to the future, and just some suggestions. I know that you're a very deep researcher, and you have looked at it, but podcastindex.org and the standard podcasting project that had been recently started by some open source podcasting people are doing many things with the RSS, and I think the player that's being used by Adam Curry and in the No Agenda, and also the podcasting 2.0 people, the player is quite interesting in a way that it supports chapter markers, and the transcript can be read alongside the other way of consuming the podcast. And maybe you can look at the player, and also thinking about implementing those new RSS standards into your podcast that will allow more discovery. I understand that most of the new podcast apps that are supporting this new RSS standards are not very accessible, and I think by involving directly with the podcasting standard project, which is an open community, we can influence the future podcasting, which should be accessible to disabled people. And maybe you can look into that.
Yes, it's a good idea, and I have, and it's one of those complex chicken and egg things, because there aren't too many players that have adopted the podcast 2.0 standards yet, and I hope they do, right, because they're super exciting. But we've also got quite a few blindness players. I think when you add the stream and some of the smaller players up, and then you add up Apple Podcasts, that's the vast majority of the way that Living Blindfully listeners listen. So at the moment, most of our audience doesn't have the tools to take advantage. But I hope that changes, and I hope those standards become more mainstream over time.
Yeah, so one of the people who are in the podcast standard is Pocket Cast. I'm so excited because Pocket Cast is very committed to accessibility, and I'm hoping that they will support those new standards soon.
Yes, yeah, it would be great if that happens. I appreciate the suggestion, Kevin, and thank you for being up in the wee small hours of the night in Malaysia on a Sunday morning.
There's a last thing about submitting contribution, right? Maybe you can think about having this contribution to be recorded or written by using any native browser components right at the web browser. There's just something for you to think about.
You're saying instead of human transcription?
No. I mean, the contribution that the listeners are giving. So for now, we can upload audio and all that, but it will be great if we can try to utilize native browser components to do recording or even writing the, contribution.
Right.
And submit using the browser. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the positive suggestions.
Okay.
Brilliant. All right. Well, keep cracking on because there are quite a few hands raised. So who's next, Heidi?
We have Nolan Parrish.
Hey, Nolan. How are you doing this afternoon where you are, I think?
Yes, is Nolan, and I want to actually, first of all, congratulate you on this new podcast integration that you have chosen to step into. And I apologize for coming in late. I was running into a technical issue because I was just about to bring the live stream from Zoom into Clubhouse using Club Deck on the Mac, and I did not have the time to get in and pull it up quick enough, and I do need to apologize for this. But I want to congratulate you on this journey ahead, and I'm actually very proud of how well you're doing, Jonathan Mosen, and I want to thank you so much for providing the podcast to everyone within the blind community.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate everybody listening because there wouldn't be much points if people didn't. So really appreciate that, Nolan. Thank you very much for your support over the years.
Next, we have Kelly Sapurgia.
Kelly Sapurgia. You got the vocoder there, Kelly?
No, unfortunately, I didn't have it queued up.
Preposterous.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe another time. Yeah. But I just wanted to congratulate you on the new podcast, and
Thank you.
Definitely looking forward to hearing it. I was just wondering, are you still planning on doing technology-related items for it, like you've been doing when you've been talking about the new Chat GPT thing?
Yes.
For Be My Eyes and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. The content of the podcast is not going to change, and technology is a key way for us to live blindfully, because when it's behaving itself, obviously technology opens up so many possibilities and opportunities for us. When it doesn't, of course, it's a pain in the bleep, and it can really hold us back and cause us issues in our jobs and all sorts of things. So there's no doubt that technology is going to continue to come up big time.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, like I say, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing the podcast, and we'll see about possibly signing up as
Thank
being
you.
a Plus member.
Really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, Kelly.
You're
All right.
welcome.
Have a good afternoon in Moose Jaw, where it must be warming up in Moose Jaw in Canada.
It
that's
it
good.
is finally.
Yeah. Glad to hear that. Yeah. All right. Take care. How are we
You
doing
too.
there, Heidi? Our button pressing person?
We have Dawn Bilputch.
Okay. Hello, Dawn.
Hello, Jonathan and Heidi. Welcome.
Well, welcome to you.
First of all, I want to congratulate you on this new podcast that you guys are going to be doing. I've been a listener since about 2021, somewhere along those lines.
Oh, right. Relatively new.
Yeah, pretty much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started listening to you guys when Hadley did a presentation on Clubhouse, and included your demo of it. That's how I heard about you. And,
Are you still on it? It seems like most of the world's moved off Clubhouse now.
I don't get on it as much as I used to. I don't get on it as much as I used
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Not as much. But I but my account is still, I still have an account there, but that's pretty much it. So the thing I have to ask, because you're doing stuff with Jaws, and well, I will say, when tech gremlins do want to get in the way, they will find a way to get in the way and bite you. So with that being said, you're using Jaws, I'm using VoiceOver, and I'm using it on an iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know, because of the thing, how do you get it to work with VoiceOver on an iPad? And the other thing that I have to ask about is kind of a suggestion. There's an app that I use, and they have a subscription for their stuff, but they also have a program that is for guardianship. So like a guardian will pay for a month of subscription for a user, and you get they do it in a raffle, and you enter in every month or so, and and if your name gets picked, then you can do that. Have you thought about, if this doesn't work, is there a way that there can be some sort of guardian kind of program for people who probably can't afford Plus but would like to still be a part of it? Because I'm one of those people that I'd like to support you, but I cannot. I cannot afford to do
understand. Yeah, I understand. And that's why I'm going to try really hard to see if we can make this model work, so that even if you're not able to do that, and I totally understand that, you'll still get all the content. It'll just be 72 hours later. So the Mosen at Large comes out on a Saturday your time, and instead it'll just come out on a Tuesday, but it will be exactly the same podcast.
Which is fine. But the other thing too, that I'm wondering is, how do you get that to work? How do you get that player thingy?
Right.
The times
So
to work VoiceOver on an
what
iPad?
should work, and I will verify this, but what should work is that when you get to the time in the show notes, you should be able to double tap on the time, and it should jump you to the point in the file.
Oh, okay. So all I got to do is just type on like 4:47 or something, and it just
Right, where you see the time, double
right
tap on that. That's right.
Ooh, okay.
Give it a shot. I'll give it a shot too, but that should work.
What, Mike? What about chapter marks? How do I get access to those? Because I've got somebody that's patched in, because he was having trouble getting in, so I've got him patched in on my phone, so I don't know if he's got a question or not either.
Okay,
But
chapter marks depends on the podcast player that you listen with. So if you subscribe or follow Living Blindfully in your podcast app, many podcast apps will bring up a list of chapters for you. Apple Podcasts will, Overcast does, Castro, Pocket Casts, quite a lot of the big podcasts app will let you see a list of chapters, and you just double tap the one that you want. Unfortunately, there is no chapter support on the blindness players yet, like the Victor Stream and the Sense player.
oh, that's too bad.
It is too bad. I keep telling them that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's lovely to hear from you, Dawn, and thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
All
Glad
right.
to be here.
Take care. All right. Let's. This takes me back to my talk radio days. This does. All right. What we got, Heidi? Who we got?
We have Dennis Long.
Dennis Long of the Long Podcast. Welcome, Dennis.
First, congratulations on the new podcast.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. I've been a long time listener, and
literally with a capital L.
Yeah. I mean this.
Yeah.
This this Chat GPT stuff, if it's done right, can really, I think, help the blind.
If it's done right, yeah. I mean, ChatGPT is putting out some pretty spurious content, and I've been discovering that more and more. But yes, in theory, it's got a lot of potential if we can iron out the kinks.
Yeah, and I mean, your demo you did a couple months back on the Hable one, I guess it was last year. That is such an awesome product.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to the guy from Hable again very shortly, actually, because they've made some updates there. So it's a great little product.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is absolutely awesome, and I can't recommend it enough. And especially on iOS, if Android would add, more keyboard commands, it could get up to par, like the double tap and hold on the record buttons. I mean, that's so huge.
Yeah.
You want to send a WhatsApp message on iOS, press and hold E. It vibrates when you're on the record button. There you go.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about doing the podcast is that there's some of these little gadgets that find it quite hard to get traction. And because of the sizable audience we've got, we can introduce people to these gadgets, and they can be quite handy. That Hable one is a nifty little device.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, if people have questions about it and want to learn more, it's Hable Community plus subscribe at groups.io. And there's, I'm on there. There's a bunch of other helpful users on there. We'd love to help you answer your questions, and no question's a dumb one. I mean, the only dumb question is the one you don't ask, because if you don't ask, you don't know.
That's
you don't get
true.
that knowledge and education.
Yep.
So don't be afraid to ask.
Yep, quite right. Lovely. Well, it's good to hear from you, Dennis, and thank you so much for listening and all your contributions over the years. I really appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome, and I look forward to contributing further.
Epic. Thank you. All right. I keep wanting to give a phone number because this really does feel like talk radio, but there's no phone number to be had. So who's next, Heidi?
Well, we have a written question in the question and answers section.
In the chat, yeah. And if people would like to do that, you're welcome to put it in the chat window as well. Mm-hmm.
Yes. This is from Winway Fisher.
Oh, Winway. So we don't get to hear you talk. That's preposterous too. Yeah.
And they say, "Hi, Jonathan. I was wondering if you will consider providing the option to pay using PayPal or Apple Pay."
I will find out. We're using our podcast provider to help us do this, so I will ask the question. I think it might be possible to do Apple Pay eventually, but it's unlikely that PayPal will happen because this is all happening through Stripe, and I think Stripe and PayPal are competitors, so that might not be possible, but I will definitely ask the question. I'd obviously like to make it as easy as possible. There.
Okay.
All right.
Next, we have Douglas Howard.
Okay. Welcome, Douglas.
Jonathan. Hello, Heidi.
Hello.
Yeah. There you go. She's doing the real work. I'm just sitting here pontificating.
Hope you both are well. I wanted to congratulate you on your new podcast venture. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
The question I had for you is, hope you can hear me okay. I'm using hearing aids.
No, you sound absolutely brilliant, actually. Really good. Yeah.
Because I noticed there's problems on iPhone sometimes with the Bluetooth on hearing aids and that.
Right.
My question was, you may or may not know this question, but would people be able to use their Visa debits, or is it just completely credit card for payments?
I think Visa debits will work, but the only way would be to try and see what happens. If if the system we have causes too much difficulty for those who want to contribute, I will find some sort of other way, but it might be a bit complicated. So give it a shot. I'm pretty confident that it will work, though.
And subscribing to the paid would be on your guys' website, right? Blindfully.
Livingblindfully.com, that's right.
Living Blindfully,
yep.
sorry.
And then if you click on Living, it'll take a while to get used to, yeah. And then if you click on the Living Blindfully Plus link, you'll get some background information, and then you get taken to a page. When you pay, you will then get a link to an RSS feed. And it's that RSS feed that you would paste into your podcast app so that you can hear the early episodes.
Well, that's awesome. I'll have to definitely check it out. But that would only be on the computer, right? Like it wouldn't really go subscribe to your Apple Podcast early.
Yeah, you can paste RSS feeds into pretty much any podcast app.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Thank you for that information.
Yeah. So that's good. It should work fine for you.
Okay, I thank you very much. And again, congratulations and all the best.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right. Heidi, take us through our next person.
Okay, just to answer those questions about Apple Pay and debit cards, Sally Britnell has chimed in the written section, and she says that subscribe using Apple Pay is already there, and she used a debit card and it works.
Yes. Okay, so we've got Apple Pay already, Winway. That's pretty cool. So, all right, that's really great, because that's super convenient for those who are on the Apple Pay to just do the Apple Pay thing. Ka-ching! Tremendous.
We now have Andre Polycanine.
Yep.
Sorry, butchering names.
And Andre's hanging out in Germany, I think, at the moment. So, welcome to you, Andre.
So far, thank you. Hello. Hi, Jonathan. Hello, Heidi. It's our first time we talk, actually. Heidi. Yeah, a quick question. Jonathan, aren't you planning to do a Mastodon feed for non-podcast content only? Like for the bits of news, the most fun things? Because I'm a podcast subscriber in my RSS client, so I'm basically very much interested into this news.
I understand. So I can't immediately think of an easy way to do that. But it's a very good point, because we're trying to slice and dice the content on the Fediverse in various ways. So when the pressure's off a little bit and we've got all this properly launched, I will give that some thought and work out how we might be able to make that work.
Cool. Thank you. And just to confirm, is it not a password protected RSS feed for paid subscribers? Because I remember it caused some problems with daily.
With the Daily Fiber and Patreon, I am avoiding Patreon because of those issues. So no, the RSS feed isn't password protected, but it will expire if your Living Blindfully Plus expires. It will just stop being valid.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
And
thanks,
good
Andre.
luck with your new podcast. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Hope you have a lovely evening over there.
Thank you.
Kurz Effen, I think. Ich verstehe nur ein bisschen Deutsch. All right. What you got there, Heidi? Which is Douglas, a German, or is it an Austrian name? Miss Heidi? Adelheid, it's short for, I think.
Well, I'm a Kiwi.
Right. That's telling me.
We have Douglas Hunsinger.
It's DJ Doug himself. All right. Welcome, Doug.
It is. How are you, Jonathan?
Look, if I were any more marvelous, I'd be dangerous. How are you doing in Pittsburgh?
Great. First of all, I just quickly want to say thank you to you and all of your family, Heidi and Bonnie and all the other Mosens who contribute to the podcast. Much appreciate the work.
Thank you.
My question is, might you consider an annual subscription along with the monthly?
To be honest, The reason why I'm reluctant to do that is that one never knows where one's career is going. And if I ever get into a position where it's not either practical or permissible because of some new role I might have to do the podcast, it would be quite a hassle to undo all of that. And I wouldn't want to kind of feel like I was breaking my promises to people. If it's a monthly commitment, then I can probably see myself saying, look, we have to wrap up in the next month.
It's easier to stop if you have to.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's why that's why I'm not doing that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. You just don't know what happens in this world. I tell you, I've been surprised before where life has gone. All right, Heidi.
We have Naeem Osman.
Okay. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Mr. Jonathan.
How's it going?
And how are you, Heidi?
Good, thanks.
Okay, my name is Naeem Osman. I'm from Kenya originally in East Africa, but I'm currently in Jordan in the Middle East.
Oh, it's great to hear
Mr.
from
Jonathan,
you.
Thank you so much. I've been a listener of your podcast from, I think, the mid of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember when exactly I came upon it, but since then, I've been addicted to it.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you.
And I don't know, I think, I don't know in which exact words to express my appreciation and to say thank you for all that you have been doing and all that you're doing now for the blind community. So big thank you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
And I thank you for giving us this opportunity, to be able to speak to you live. This is a dream come true. Wow.
Oh, well, it's great to talk to you.
And I hope to be able to come one day to New Zealand and visit you, if you don't mind, that is, of course.
Do you like fish and chips?
Oh, that's my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good. We've got a really good fish and chip shop. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So just thank you so much and congratulations, Mr. Jonathan, for the new, shall I say, the new podcast and the new design and everything. And I hope to be able to contribute in whichever way that I can to the plus feature, even if it means in a smaller way, because but yeah, I wish to be able to contribute, and I will do so. And thank you so much, and please keep up the good job. And my greetings to all of your family, Bonnie, Heidi, who is with us, and to your grandchild as well.
Thank you. I really appreciate that generous comment, and thank you for listening all this time. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Keep up the good job.
Thank you. All right. Have we got any more hands, Heidi?
Oh, do we ever? We have 42 more hands. We have Eddie Kushner.
Okay. Calling in. Are you calling in from the Optima yet, Adi? You got your Optima running Zoom?
It's a funny question. My current Optima does not have a microphone yet.
Oh,
but we have it fully functional except microphone yet. But that's in the works because of beamforming and some of the stuff we have to take care of.
Sounds like Star Trek.
I just of course wanted to say thank you and congratulate, but also to really express my appreciation on a personal level. I mean, aside from the fact that especially after having the privilege to being interviewed on the podcast recently, and to say that you're doing a very, comprehensive and fair job. You never give up on the hard questions, which is always appreciated. That's the way to do things. But also, your podcast serves as an important place especially for people who work in various fields related to, people, to blind and low vision people. And then particularly people like me who are starting something new, like this is my first independent thing I'm starting in assistive technology now. And just the amount of influence and feedback about what is actually needed. For instance, take your thumb keys discussion, or take your discussion about the fact, like from your podcast, I learned that people are looking for quality podcast access on Windows, which is missing, including chapters and all the fancy features, and especially after what's happened with Castro recently and all the changes to the interface, and gave me some ideas of how to tackle the issue. And I'm starting to work on something to that fact. So it serves for all of us as an opportunity to not only be in contact with the community and learn, but also to really understand the needs in the field. And this is something that doesn't happen often. And I really wish more players from our field, especially the big ones, would take advantage of it in the best possible way and support it. And I'm not only talking about the technology sector. So that's something that's really important that no one else has done to this degree. And of course, I'll be supporting this as much as I can myself. So this is very, very appreciated, all this effort.
Well, thank you, Adi. It's kind of been a pleasant surprise to me that this thing that started off so loose and a bit rough and ready has got this massive critical mass. And as I said in the presentation, one of the things I'm really proudest of is that we do try to tackle the difficult issues without being too disagreeable. And so I do try and ask the tough questions. And I'm pleased to say that for the most part, everybody who I ask the tough questions of is still talking to me. So I appreciate that.
This is the way it should be done. And especially people who work in our field, I mean, in any field, but especially in our field, who don't want to answer these difficult questions, or who avoid being interviewed by someone because they don't like their level of professionalism like you're doing, they should take a lesson and learn from others who do this, because this is the foundation of getting this stuff right. Especially if you're involved with this community producing something that doesn't include the community, in my opinion, from start, wherever possible, and not being transparent is the key to failure. So I think that people should embrace this platform as much as possible.
Thank you. I really appreciate the support, and it's been quite an extraordinary blast these last sort of nearly 4 years. So we look forward to staying in touch and asking you more tough questions about the Optima, about which there is considerable excitement.
Yeah, well, you already, took us to the big Funkies change. So I'm thankful for that. This is really that's the step in the right direction, and I'm really thankful for your time. That just really shows again how important this is for everybody.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and have a good evening. Let's see who else is next, Heidi.
We have Jim East.
It's Sunny Jim from Florida with his broken iPhone. Welcome to you, Jim.
This is Jim, and it's working now.
Oh, good.
Listening to your show has made me start seeking out. I just hired an instructor for the saxophone who's blind. When I became middle-aged, of course, I didn't buy a Corvette. So I rented to own a saxophone, which in most communities you can do if there's local high schools with bands.
What you mean we're going to talk about your sax life on a live Zoom webinar?
No. Well, you can, but it's anyway.
Yeah.
That was good. You caught me there.
Yeah.
So I was thinking is if we could get, and then I don't know how you feel about it. This is just my idea. I would love, I hear about it here in the U.S. with the African-American community, the Latino community. If we could hear more from blind and visually impaired business owners, or people that sell something, whether it be a service or a trade or a project, whatever, I would love it, because it makes me feel so good. Because, like, for me, learning something, obviously, a lot of us learn as blind people or low vision people. There's certain hallmarks of the way we're taught to do things. And I've had sighted instructors before, but I thought, hiring in this case someone who's blind, this person would know, how to give me direction, and be able to help me, be more successful quickly. And so I want to first say thank you for being so generous. I'm subscribing. And one of the things I'm going to do, and I leave it up to everyone to do what they can, But what I'm going to do is, you mentioned about the exchange rate. When I travel, of course, I go to Canada, Mexico. It's nice that there's a price difference, because the U.S. dollar is what the U.S. dollar is. But I plan on start out, 10 Australian, because I'm on disability too,
Sure, I
but
appreciate that.
be able to do more. But when you said the 622 or whatever it was, I thought to myself, that is kind. But even with my situation, I feel like, I mean, gosh, if I could give you a couple $100 a month, I would, because that, me, what you're pushing is something that is an education for me. And I'm a blind professional with a master's degree. Okay. I've worked in the blindness field for over 30 years. So, I mean, I'm not as tech savvy as you and your team are, but I'm still learning even at my level. And so I can imagine for new people, it's like, wow, this is great. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm no peer pressure, nothing like that, but I'm just telling people that's what I'm doing. So I want to thank you and your team for doing such an outstanding job. When I get off this, I'm glad to hear about Apple Pay, because that's where I'm going. And keep up the great work. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is pasting that RSS feed, if I'm saying that right, into the Apple thing. I do in Zoom sometimes. I go to links and it says you have to cut and paste, and it's pretty easy because there's just a button where you just tap that button. It says pasted or cut, and then I just open Zoom and then I just push the paste, and then you go into edit and then paste, and it's done. So I'm hoping I'm not going to run into a challenge there, but I'm going to shut up because you guys are busy.
Right.
Thank you for all the great work, and that's what I'm doing.
Well,
Thanks
thank you, Jim. Thanks for the generous thoughts. And it's a bit hard to live test some of these things until they do go live, but we'll provide all the support that we can in terms of Living Blindfully Plus members getting the feed that they paid for. You raise a really interesting question about, shall we say, pitching the content on the podcast. And I think about this a lot because I do receive quite a lot of email from people who say, I enjoy the podcast. Quite a bit of the tech stuff is beyond me, but I listen anyway and sort of pick up what I can. And so I've done my best over the years to try and do a better job of explaining things that might be obvious to some of us, but aren't to others. And then the other thing is about the blind business owners. There's a knack somewhere here between coming across as just people in a place that some people who perhaps are new to blindness or haven't had the access to training and opportunity that some of us have had, just making them feel like it's out of reach for me. I can't get there. So somehow we've got to find a way to make that content accessible, not in terms of technology accessibility, but actually resonate with people who've had a variety of experiences with blindness and low vision. And that's my challenge. And I keep trying to work on that.
So we have a few more of the written questions.
Okay.
The first is from Jana Skroder.
Yep. Hi, Jana.
And she says, loves the new name. Is there any possibility of an other amount? Because right now they're all set amounts for the Living Blindfully Plus.
I will have to talk to the provider of the technology to see if we can make it more flexible. So I will make a note of that and check.
Okay. Then, sorry, there was one more that I wanted to read out. Kevin Chow.
Yep.
He's asking about merch. What kind of merch will there be?
We're just starting on the merch. So we know that we want merch. My youngest daughter calls it merch. That's where I got that term. So I'm glad other people are calling it merch. She's sort of in the field. You got to get the merch, Dad. I would like to see Living Blindfully T-shirts and other types of shirts. I'd like to see Living Blindfully USB drives, with the logo on the USB thumb drives. And what I would really like, and this might take a while, is to have Living Blindfully canes. So a white cane with the Living Blindfully logo on it. And who knows, maybe Bonnie has got some ideas about guide dog accessories as well. So this is really in the early stage. We've spent so much time trying to get this website right and some of the infrastructural issues, not to mention changing all the jingles and sweeps that you hear on the podcast and change. It's just been a mess. I'm not going to do this again. I hope that this name lasts me the rest of my life. This has been a massive undertaking, but we will get around to the merch. If there's anything you want in the merch, let us know.
Cool. Now we have Joseph Norton.
Hey, from Georgia. Joe from Georgia. Now, Joe, are you coming in on your good mic or are you not coming in on your good mic?
I'm coming in on a set of Apple EarPods.
Hey, I didn't think you were coming in on your good mic. Yeah.
I don't have a good mic.
Oh, you always sound like you do when you send me your contributions. So, yeah.
No. This, the mic that I had developed a loose wire, and
I see.
No connection on the other ends.
I developed a loose wire some time ago, actually. Yeah. Sorry, I'm distracting you from what you were going to say, so I'll shut up.
No, it had a nice USB-C connection.
Yeah.
And but the darn thing had a wire on the other end. It's loose.
Right.
And you can't do anything about that. I was a little bit upset about that.
Yeah, no good.
But I'm going to do something with it. I also bought a Samsung Go mic, which didn't do too bad. It did what I wanted. And I can't find it. It's gone somewhere. I don't know.
Oh gosh, we could tell him a story, couldn't we, Heidi? We could tell him a story about lost microphones.
How about we don't?
Okay, we won't tell that story, right?
Well, no, I tell you something that's so fiddly. I hate it. That little adapter you use to plug your headphones into the 3.5 headphones into the iPhone. That thing is so fiddly. I've lost 2 or 3 of those crazy things.
Yes,
I think the word fiddly, I like the word fiddly for that because it seems to be appropriate.
Oh my goodness, the dongles. Yeah.
Yeah, those things. Anyway, I just thought of something, Living Blindfully oven mitt. I have a nice a couple of nice silicone oven mitts, and that might be something, a Living Blindfully oven mitt, so you could think about that.
Right. When we get into a heated conversation on the podcast, you could have a Living Blindfully oven mitt. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
But I just wanted to let someone know. Somebody asked about debit cards, and I was planning on subscribing more toward a different date of the month due to the particular income I receive that comes in a certain week. So I have to be careful what I spend my income on in certain times of the month. But I said, well, let me just do a test. So I did a test with my Bank of America debit card, not a credit card, and worked like a top.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Also the RSS feed, I'm assuming that I can paste that into a file into my Victor stream. There seems to be an option in the podcast menu, import from file. So I'll do what we used to say in the computer field, RTFM, to find out where that is.
I would be really disappointed if that were not the case. So yeah, the idea should be that you can paste that into the stream, and then you can listen to the podcast directly from the stream whenever it's published.
Yeah, I bet there's a file that I can do that in. Yeah, RTFM stands for Read the Friendly Manual.
Indeed it does. Yes. Remember the tiny tots, Joe.
That's right. Yeah. Or Read the Fine Manual is another one.
Yes.
Yeah,
lovely.
Absolutely. But enjoy the podcast. This is a great name change. And
thank you.
I go back to Blind Line, and
boy.
If you bring back well, you may remember when I did a Slackware demo years ago on the main menu.
Yes, I do remember that. Yep.
And by the way, do you have any archives of those?
I have most of them in high quality audio. There are some really low bitrate versions floating around. There's been a lot of talk about this on Mastodon lately. And I have a few gaps because in those days, hard drives weren't big enough for me to keep them all backed up on hard drive. So I used to back them up onto physical media. And I have 1 or 2 gaps where there are a couple of missing CDs. And actually, John Gassman pinged me about this yesterday. And he said, where are those missing CDs? So it might be a task for Heidi and me to work on one day when she's down here.
Yeah, I have loads of unlabeled CDs.
Yeah.
Actually, here's the thing. Hard drives are smaller, and yet they're bigger.
Ironic, eh? Ironic.
Anyway.
Yeah. Let's get Alanis Morissette on it. Yeah, lovely. You too, Joe. And thank you for all your contributions. I always appreciate them.
All right.
Take care.
Talk to you later.
All right. Let's go to the next caller. We still got some hands raised there, Heidi?
We still have 38 hands raised.
Oh, my word. All right. We'll crack on.
Pavel Mess.
Right. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, we're going to Poland for this contribution then. I hope I haven't completely misremembered that.
Hello? Yes.
Hello. I'm so sorry about your name. I'm terrible.
It's okay. It's Paweł Masarczyk, but don't worry. It's greetings from Poland. It's currently 20 past 11 p.m.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you for staying up.
Yes, it's a pleasure. I'm really happy to be here. And first of all, Jonathan, I wanted to thank you for a fantastic show you're putting out every week. And I just wanted to let you know that as soon as I find a subject that would be interesting for our community here in Poland, I'm translating this and relaying via our podcast. We also offer similar programming for the Polish blind community in the Polish language, which happens every week. So for those who can't speak English, we relay information from different sources.
Right.
And we are fortunate enough that we have some fantastic community members who build components for us. So we, for example, have already had a player with linked chapters. We link them in comments, not in the show notes. Apparently, there is some atavism in our WordPress config, which makes it impossible to do it in the show notes. So if it should become difficult solving the problem on your end, I think it would be possible for us to jump on and help and provide or suggest a solution.
Okay, thank you. That would be really good. I mean, it's working now, but it's not as accessible as I would like in an ideal world.
Yes, so on our end, it's working, but also a bit differently in the comments. But the links are there, and they have been working. So we also have an open source Windows app that somebody else built, so it's possible to peek into the source code there as well. If you would ever want that, chapters are supported in it as well.
Interesting. Okay, I'm very interested in that.
Okay. And also, I was wondering because I really like this approach of yours with the US area codes. But I was also thinking, would you be interested in looking into the international area codes and perhaps maybe sharing some interesting facts about some countries to which these codes belong? Maybe it would be some idea for future, maybe premium or otherwise content, to take a look at how blind people fare in different countries of the world. For example, now with the 3-digit numbers starting with 2, we are pretty much on the African continent.
Right, so country codes as well as area codes.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
That's a good idea. I should look at the country codes as well and make sure that we're not being too US centric. Yeah, it sort of started as a bit of a gimmick, and now people are expecting it. You see.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting to me as well. Like I'm also quite interested in telephony in general, and I used to play a lot with telephony as a child myself. So I mean the European codes are a bit difficult because they are mostly 2-digit and they start with 3. So we have a while to wait. But also I was thinking about this, like so because of our podcast, I'm sort of developed this hobby of collecting blindness related podcasts from all around the world. I have a nice collection in my podcatcher, and it made me realize how many of us are. And I was wondering whether you would find it sensible at some point maybe to set up a common mailing list or another communication channel specifically for this kind of podcasts to exchange. I know there is a generic blind podcasters mailing list of yours, and that's really great. I need to join still. But I was thinking of something more targeted at this specific kind of podcasts, for instance, and radio stations, to look into financing opportunities or to exchange program between the different stations in different languages and form sort of cooperations to make the programming around the world a bit more varied. And because what I like to do in our podcast is I set up a little what's happening with blind people around the world section, just to show our listeners that we are not an isolated island with our struggles and our successes and good practices. So maybe it's something the world needs. I don't know.
I'm certainly interested in anything that fosters collaboration and information sharing. And actually, as part of the Blind Podcasters group, when I first created it, my idea was to set up a promo exchange where blind podcasters could submit a generic promo telling people about their podcast, because I realized, we're very lucky, probably because I've just hung around long enough. We've got a massive audience, and I realized that there are some very good blind podcasts that don't have the audience that this one does. So I thought, well, one way I can contribute to that is to set up this promo exchange idea where we all agree to, say, play 1 or 2 promos per podcast in an episode, but not many blind podcasters got into that, which, that's fine. You try these things and sometimes they don't work out, but I'm still interested in any kind of collaboration ideas.
Okay, so that's definitely something we can be looked into. Thanks a lot. Once again, thank you for everything you do. And before I check off, I definitely checked Heidi is an old Germanic name.
Yep.
Actually, Heid is a suffix in German, well, like ty in English for different features of character like beauty, serenity, nobility. So yeah, so there are different names that end with Heid, I guess, but Adelheid is one of the most popular. And there seems to be, my Austrian colleagues told me, a very popular German children's TV series called Heidi.
That might be based on the book. There's a book called Heidi as well. And then there was one called Heidi Grows Up.
Oh, yeah, possibly. There is a fair amount of disability representation at any rate. There is a blind character in there. There is a character that uses a wheelchair.
Very
good. I don't know if that's the same.
I think that is the same one. Yeah.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Good to hear from you. Now
Thank
we're
you.
up to the intermission. This is a bit where Heidi yodels, after we've been talking about the Germanic origins of the name. You get to yodel now, Heidi. You say.
Yodel.
Yeah. Very impressive. Who's next?
Alexandra Edwards.
Welcome to you. Thanks for being so patient.
I've nearly finished the whole tub of ice cream while waiting for my turn. So,
what flavor?
Good question. Nuts, biscuits, caramel, along those lines.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah. Right. So, hi, Jonathan and
Hello.
Heidi and Bonnie, everyone else. I'm Alexandra. I'm originally from Slovenia, but I live in the UK now. I've been for quite a few years now. I first heard your voice, Jonathan, on the IRA podcast years ago.
Oh, right. Yeah, but 2018 that would have been.
Yeah. And then I was very sad when you disappeared. And then I sort of ignorantly forgotten about you until a few months ago, actually, when the new blindness players, as you call them, came out. And I was very curious because I didn't know which one to choose. I still don't, by the way. And then I somehow came across your podcast where you were interviewing the Victor, the humanware people. And I haven't missed an episode since. I really, really like your style. And the reason why I'm tuning in today is because I want to say that I love how respectful you are towards everyone and how you always try to ensure that any opinions, any views are fully represented. And I think that's a skill to have, and that not every person who does podcasts or shows like this has. So I really value you for this. And that's also the reason why my husband and I will happily join your plus circle.
Well, thank you. I try. I may not always get it quite right, but I give it a good shot. And obviously we're all human and sometimes things push our buttons, but there's a lot of conflict and people ratcheting up the tension. So I try not to do that.
And I can imagine it is difficult, especially if you have your own views or if you don't always agree. I mean, I appreciate very much that you personally, you said yourself that you don't really understand why people like these, for instance, blindness players.
Yeah.
But, you still, that didn't deter you from representing them fully, in a very informative way. So I genuinely, I respect that a lot. And that's what I wanted to say. And now I'm going to continue eating my ice cream.
Well, thank you so much for listening and for the very kind comments. I really do appreciate that. I hope you'll stay listening. I'm glad you discovered the show.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next, Heidi?
We have L'Oreal.
L'Oreal, yeah.
I'm sorry. I suck at names.
That's all right.
Yes. No, don't worry.
Sometimes I say them like my text-to-speech engine says them, and sometimes my text-to-speech engine doesn't say them right either. Hi, L'Oreal.
Hi, Jonathan. Good afternoon here from upstate New York, and good morning to you and your daughter, Heidi. Thank you so much, first off, for doing what you've done. I've been listening to you since back when you were doing the Freedom Scientific podcast.
All right. Well, FScast, yeah.
Yeah, FScast, sorry. So I had two initial questions, but you mostly or partly answered one I had before earlier about with regard to shared promotion, if you will, of other blind individuals' podcasts in return for them sharing yours, of course. So that kind of was answered. I'm hoping that we can find some more information in the future to help not only promote yours, but maybe get those podcasts from those of us who are just beginning and maybe don't have the fan base that you have, or I should say following, excuse me, not fan base, but following. But my other question is this: would you possibly be interested in someone or anybody, someone's coming along and assisting with some of these tasks that you will be, undertaking and trying to lighten your load, essentially, as it were? I do provide a service myself as a transcriptionist. I've been transcribing for probably about 24, almost 25 years, since I was 17 years old. And I was just curious if you might have an ability to put something out there, either on the Living Blindfully website, excuse me, Living Blindfully website, where those of us who may have services that we could possibly offer or potentially, assist or donate services to help you.
Yes, I mean, I'm interested in anything really. The transcription one is tricky because obviously the cheapest way to do this would be to use one of the many machine-based transcription tools. And what I found with this podcast is because we get so many contributions from people recorded with a range of microphones and a range of accents, they don't do so well. And we also have multiple speakers. So that's where I went with human transcription. And
that's what I provide.
Yeah. So currently we can do the human transcription for approximately, and it varies a bit. So if the accents are stronger or we have more than two people talking in a time, like we might have two people that I'm interviewing, so that makes three. But on average, we can do it for about $100 per episode. And it's actually quite hard to pay somebody, I mean, I can only imagine how long it takes to do a transcription of a 2-hour episode. So it's something I'm working on. Yeah.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, from a transcriptionist perspective, it would take approximately 4, maybe 6 hours to type up a 2-hour transcript. I also do work with several speakers. I've done several speaker transcription. I've also done where English is a second language for transcription.
Right. So I mean, my concern is that like $100 for 6 hours of work is just
no. That's not.
That's
No.
Yeah, and so that's the problem I've got. So I hope we might be able to change the whole dynamics through the Living Blindfully Plus program, and obviously audio editing as well. So yeah, my goal is to try and keep this in the family as much as we can.
Well, yeah, no. But I'm saying, if you had somebody that said, "Hey, look, we would like to donate our service,"
sure.
And if it's a service that works for you, great. If it's a service that starts out working for whatever the service may be, whether it's the individual who spoke earlier about helping to facilitate maybe translation into non-English. If you have a potential vendor out there who says, "Hey, look, we would like to donate our service," would that potentially be something allowed down the line?
Yeah, I'd be pleased to talk about any of those options for sure. That obviously, if it helps us expand the reach, then that would be wonderful.
All right, wonderful. So, should anyone interested in this contact you at info, at a generic email, or
so the best one. So for discussion that's not related to sending in a contribution for the show, you can use contact@livingblindfully.com, and that will get to me, and I will definitely reply.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All
right.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Now we have David Harvey.
Okay, welcome. Good, happy Sunday morning to you, David.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Well, I thought you were eating too many Easter eggs for a second there. Welcome.
Well, I do have Easter eggs. Yes, good on it's the name change is going to get used to rather than saying Living at Large or Blindfully at Large. But yeah, I like it, Living Blindfully. Actually, the name change came up in my Facebook notification last night. I was like, you changed it early.
Yes, that's right. We've been working on a whole lot of changes. So we've done Facebook, we've done YouTube, and we've done Twitter. And while we're just talking about this stuff, I should say that Twitter has a bizarre character limit on its usernames, and we were one character over. So we've had to make the Twitter name Live Blindfully. But if you are subscribed to the Mosen at Large Twitter feed, or you're following Mosen at Large on Twitter, it's already changed for you, and you don't have to do anything. You're already following Living Blindfully.
Well, I deleted my Twitter app on my phone. I'm just on Mastodon now. I'm still on Facebook, but Mastodon is my primary social network now. Good on you for doing it in New Zealand dollars. It's probably the first one that I remember you doing it in the first project in New Zealand dollars, Jonathan. Because every time you've mentioned dollars, it's always been in US.
Say again, sorry, David.
So would this be your first New Zealand dollar project?
Yes, actually, yes. It will be the first New Zealand dollar project as far as I remember. Yes. And that's just a requirement of Stripe because we're based in New Zealand. They want to process in New Zealand dollars. So we'll live with that. And actually, it's an advantage for many people who live, say, in the US or Canada or the UK or even Australia. It's actually cheaper for them.
Yeah, because it also means for New Zealanders, it takes, you'll include the GST will be included as well for New Zealand dollars.
That's right.
Yeah, and when it comes to the interviews with Living Blindly, would you be going back to the parties this year for the election?
I have thought about that, and I'm not sure at this point. So for those who don't remember, in 2017, on The Blind Side, we interviewed the disability spokespeople for the political parties before New Zealand's election. In 2020, I actually did that in the podcast for the organisation that I work for. So I'm not sure if we will do that because the vast majority of our audience is not in New Zealand on Living Blindfully. It might be on the boring side, but I'll see if I can find a way to get that work done because I think it is quite important work.
Okay. And what about talking with blind sports stars such as blind cricketers?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. I actually, there's a guy called Dean Duplessis in Zimbabwe who's a blind cricket commentator, and I've been trying to track him down for a while because he gets in touch with me from time to time. And I'm curious about how he does his blind cricket commentating. So if you happen to be hearing this, Dean, get in touch because I'd love to have a chat with you.
Yeah, it would be good to hear like blind cricket.
Yeah,
on the internet stream somehow, a internet stream, because with what's happened with MediaWorks and the loss of cricket commentary on the radio, but that will be for another day.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right.
And good on for the name change, and looking forward to the first episode of Living
Blindfully. Yeah. Cheers, David.
Next Sunday morning.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Yep. Have a good Easter.
Yep, you too.
Yeah. All that chocolate.
Thank you.
Get you hyper. That's what it'll do. Had any Easter chocolate yet, Heidi?
I haven't eaten any yet, but I have received some.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Who's next?
We have Gary O'Donoghue.
Gary, welcome.
How you doing, Jonathan?
Marvellous. And you?
Not too bad at all. And let me add my congratulations to what you've created.
Thank you.
Here, it's an appointment to listen, which in this sort of crowded world and that demands our attention all the time is an achievement in itself. I just had a couple of sort of observations and questions. Obviously, the big change here is the name and then the revenue stream rather than the content. And some people have touched on this, and I wondered whether you were prepared to sort of commit to, when you talked about outsourcing some of the tasks, whether you were going to commit to using the revenue stream to actually employ blind people to do those tasks whenever you can, because obviously that would be something that people would feel that their money was going to an even better cause than keeping the podcast going.
Most certainly. So I actually did mention that in the presentation, and also it's on the Living Blindfully Plus site. So that is absolutely my aim. There are plenty, for example, of good blind podcast audio editors out there. And if we get sufficient funds to outsource some of that work, it will be going to a blind podcast audio editor, for example.
Well, that's great. That's great to know. The second thought I had was, I understand the sort of logic behind advertising and buying a plus subscription to things, being aware of avoiding advertising. But I wondered in this case where you're specifically only going to use adverts that have a sort of relevance to the blindness community, whether that was such a good thing for the plus subscribers. They might miss out on things they actually want to know about.
Yeah.
And I wondered if there might be another method of putting them somewhere in the show notes rather than, cluttering up the audio. But you wouldn't necessarily want to miss the advertising you're passing through.
I did wonder about this, actually, and whether purchasing a plus subscription might be disincentivized because you miss out on ads that are actually informational. I mean, if a company that you like has got a special on a stream or a sense player, since we're talking about those a lot these days, you might want that. That's information you want. So I will be guided by the community on this. And to be honest, with everything going on, I think it'll take a while for the ad revenue stream to even become an issue. But when it does, what I'll probably do is survey Living Blindfully Plus members at the time and let them be the guide about that, because I think you make a really good point, and it has sort of been niggling away at me as well.
And my final question was, and I don't want to throw a hand grenade into the party here.
Oh, my word.
Have you considered at some point, or will you consider at some point, making this perhaps a sort of co-hosted podcast where you get perhaps someone from the next generation involved from somewhere else in the world, and you sort of make it a double header, and sort of widen. I mean, the demographic's pretty wide by the sound of the contributions you get anyway, but as a way of sort of, widening the demographic, changing the tone, changing the sound, that sort of thing.
It is not something I've considered, but it's a really good idea. It's funny. You do your thing, and it's not something I think too much about most of the time, but particularly on Mastodon, where there's been a lot of discussion about vintage technology and things, I've come to realize that there's a whole generation of young people who view those early main menu episodes, for instance, or Blind Line episodes as history. And so it does make me feel quite old. But yes, I mean, I'd like to pay it forward to the next generation. So it might be fun to perhaps do it once a month or something like that, and pick a co-host, a younger co-host, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah. Cool idea.
Good luck, mate.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. All right, Heidi.
Okay.
I think Gary's daughter's about you. Oh, no, she's a bit younger than you. Yeah. We used to hear her on the Mosen Explosion a long time ago when she was tiny. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have Zahir Mahmoud.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been a while since I've heard from you, Zahir, but I've seen you on the Mastodon recently.
Yes, indeed. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Brilliant. Yeah, Heidi, you pronounced my name quite well, so that's great. Although I tell people, well, I mean, I over the years I've gotten used to answering to anything, so I just tell people to call me anything but late for dinner.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
But Jonathan, I wanted to just take a moment and tell you that I really admire the way you went about it. I often wondered how you could, get on with a podcast and maintain such a high quality for such a long time, and still manage to be a husband and a father and a grandfather and have a full-time job. I really admire the way you went about sharing that struggle sort of with the community, and kind of, giving an opportunity for people to really kind of, show how much they value the podcast. I've always wondered how these sorts of undertakings end up. So I'll be keen to see, and I'm very hopeful, how your experiment goes. But insofar as things that you could do to lighten the load, so to speak, I noticed that every podcast is a couple of hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And have you thought about maybe shortening it to, say, maybe a half an hour a half an hour a week as opposed to 2 hours.
See, I mean, if I didn't have as much content, I'd definitely shorten it. The thing is, we get so many listener contributions, and what's actually happened, particularly in the last year, is that we get approached by companies, by various people saying, I would really like to come on the podcast and discuss this. So we've actually got a bit of a bottleneck right now that I need to put a hold on new content for a while to catch up, because we've got some material that I put together in January while I was on my summer break that we still haven't got to, because there's some new material that's got some currency that I've prioritized. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind shortening it, but there's just so much stuff, there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah, and that's totally understandable. I think though, you got to think of your well-being as well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Maybe that's one way. And I don't know, some of us have shorter attention spans than others. So, but yeah, I mean, keep up the good work, Jonathan. I really admire what you're doing and have been following you. Gosh, I feel like I'm old too, from the days of well before main menu.
Yeah, you go way back. Yeah,
I do. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
Thank you. Well, see, so do I. That's the problem.
Right. And a shout out to the gentleman, Mr. Osman, who's in Jordan, where I'll be next week. So yeah, hope the weather is good there. And again, thank you and keep up the great work.
Wonderful. Enjoy yourselves in Jordan. There you go. I've never been to that part of the world. I got to Dubai once. That was pretty cool. All right. Who's next, Heidi?
Robert Kingett.
Yep. We'll go to Robert. Welcome to you, Robert.
Hello, Heidi and Jonathan.
Hi there.
Woo. Hello there. So I had two questions. The first is, I might have missed it among the presentation, but can we gift subscriptions to those that maybe don't have enough money to? And if we gift subscriptions, how long will the RSS feed last?
There is no gifting option at present. It's a really good idea. We are working with Pinecast on this, because one thing I didn't mention in the presentation was that I did examine quite a few providers of podcast premium options, and I wanted something that was as accessible as possible to sign up to, because people have varying levels of tech comfort, and this one was the best. So there are more flexible options that would let you do that sort of thing, but they weren't as accessible. So the Pinecast proprietor is very responsive, so I'll pass that suggestion on to him. It's a really good one.
Oh, woot. Yay. Well, and the other question I had, I might have missed this as well. So you're doing this just through RSS and not through the Apple channels?
That's correct, because with Apple, they make you set a price. And what I'm trying to do is recognize that there are some people who would like to make a contribution, but they can't actually afford very much, and I don't want to shut them out. So Apple takes 30 or 33%? I think it's 30% of...
I think it's 33%.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so it's a reasonable number of the subscription value. So what I would probably have to do is set a subscription at, say, I don't know, a minimum of 10 New Zealand dollars a month to make it worthwhile, because then I would get 33% off that. So that wouldn't leave me a lot. If there's a huge demand for Apple Podcasts because of how simple it is, then I will do it, but it will have to be, I have to set the price accordingly.
Okay. And finally, I had one more question. By the way, congratulations to you being a granddad.
Oh, thank you.
Children terrify me, so better you than me. But finally, I did listen to the Optima interview, but I did have a question. So I lost the remainder of my vision later in life. So my Braille is not as proficient as those that learned at a very, very early age. So would you classify the Optima helping in us keeping up our Braille skills, or would you classify the device as something that's more for Braille experts, I guess, if you will.
So do you have any vision at all?
Not anymore.
Okay.
No.
So one of the things that I think is quite attractive about the Optima is that it's essentially a screenless laptop. And I think that that will have quite a positive influence on the battery performance because the screens take quite a lot of energy. So you would get that benefit and also just a kind of a flatter form factor. And I know as a result of the interview and other suggestions they got from CSUN, they are looking at potentially a speech-only version of the Optima. So you may have that choice where effectively you just get a thickish, or medium-sized keyboard that is a fully talking laptop, and that may be all you need. And that would be a lot cheaper than the Braille display because Braille display technology is expensive. But I think there's no doubt if you had Braille at your fingertips all the time and you just think, I've got a bit of time to read this email right now, time's on my side, then you probably would get more proficient over time.
Probably. I mean, my grade 1 is really good. My grade 2 is ugh. So.
Right. And you'd be able to specify the grade of Braille that you want. For example, I'm not that familiar with NVDA's Braille support, but I'm sure you can turn contracted Braille on and off there. So you'd be able to just use whatever worked for you.
Okay, good. Thank you much.
All right. Thanks, Robert. Good to hear from you. And thanks for getting me into Mastodon, by the way.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah, I know. I was very skeptical and dismissive. And I've got the religion now, brother. All right.
Ciao.
Who we got, Heidi?
Next we have Zachary Benal.
Yeah. I know Zachary. Welcome to you, Zachary. Well, I know the name anyway.
Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
Good to hear from you.
All right. Yeah, you too, man. I just wanted to kind of chime in and say thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. I guess since a lot of us are talking about how we first heard of you, I first heard your voice 13 years ago, something like that, when I stumbled across FSCast and listened to the first one and go, who is this random Australian man? He sounds really cool. Oh. And I had no idea that at the time that a New Zealand accent and an Australian accent were not the same thing. So... I really appreciate sort of the, in-depth quality of your work. You're very fair about stuff. I think that allowing for a range of different opinions is really important. And it's really cool that you make sure that happens on your show as much as possible. And I've really been enjoying a lot of the stuff you've been talking about with GPT and all the sort of AI deep learning stuff that's been going on over the past little while. I've been doing a lot of work with that over the past few years as well, especially when it comes to like speech synthesis, things like that. Training kind of custom models using some open source tools. And I actually want to maybe contribute something like that to the podcast soon, hopefully. I was going to do it a little while ago, but ended up learning a lot more in the meantime and figured I would hold off until I knew a little more about what I was actually talking about so that I wouldn't be giving people wrong information. But it's really exciting, all the AI stuff that's been happening over the past little while. And I think it's cool that we are finally starting to see that reflected in the products that the blind community is going to have access to. So
yeah, I think it shows a lot of promise, but there is some pretty scary soup going on. I mean, I actually asked it the other day to tell it what it. So what happened on Mastodon? The first time I actually heard of ChatGPT in about November last year, I think it was, somebody pinged me on Mastodon and said, I just asked ChatGPT about you, and this is what it told me. Yeah. And I thought, well, that's really sort of trippy that ChatGPT even knows. And so then I asked it the other day, what did it know? And it said that I had been married to Bonnie for 30 years, which I have not been. It said that we have 2 sons together, which we don't. And then it said that Bonnie owns her own captioning company, which she doesn't. And I'm thinking, where is it getting this stuff from? So it does hallucinate. And when it doesn't know, it just makes stuff up. And I'm not totally dismissive of it, because I think we will get there. But with so much misinformation out there, it's really quite concerning that there's a whole lot more being thrown into the mix until this AI model really gets its act together.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The way that this stuff is trained, just to kind of shed a little light on, because I've been doing a lot of research into LLMs, which is what GPT is. It's a large language model. And essentially, just for anyone who doesn't know, the way it's trained is they feed it tons and tons and tons of text from the internet. So it's scraped from lots of different websites, in most cases without consent, I might add, and just gets everything it can. So the reason it knows about you is because you're online and you have stuff on the internet, but it's not trained to give you truthful information. It's really more of a very fancy autocomplete. So kind of like the predictive text on your phone, same kind of deal. It's just that it's doing that with phrases rather than single words. So if you ask it about you, it might see that you were mentioned alongside Bonnie, for example, and then it's just going to go off of that and try and predict the next phrase that would be the most likely to come up in that sequence. So it's not lying intentionally, but it will lie. And I think we have to be very careful of that. And I personally feel that in terms of like putting this into products, we're moving a bit too quickly with the sort of language stuff. Less so with, say, like speech synthesis, because that's a very different issue. But when it comes to the chat bots and this whole generative text type stuff that everyone is raving about, I think that more work definitely needs to be done in terms of the truthfulness aspect. But if you're talking about creative stuff, writing emails or coding, which it is especially GPT-4 is very good at, I think that's where I am super excited about it. It's very good at coming up with ideas for you, helping you. If you have, say, like I've been using it for giving me feedback on some of my writing and improving it. So yeah, it's really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, and I think Be My Eyes should be applauded for being so cautious about the way it's deploying their virtual volunteer, because as we showed yesterday, it works a lot of the time, it doesn't work some of the time, and you've just got to be careful the degree to which you rely on it. But it is exciting where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, really good work on the podcast. I'll be subscribing at some point soon.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll be contributing some cool stuff in the near future, hopefully. So,
I look forward to that. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Heidi, how are we doing with the hand raising?
We have currently 23 hands raised.
Okay, because we have to stop at some point, but I'll do my best to be a bit more succinct and get through those who have their hands raised now.
Okay.
All right.
Brant Steenkamp?
Yep, in sunny South Africa, where it's also getting pretty late. So welcome, Brant.
Good Sunday morning, Jonathan. How are you?
Yeah, welcome. Good.
I've been slapping myself awake now for the last hour.
Oh, dear.
It's a bit late. What's the time now? 0:03. Yeah, I would like to say thank you for what you have done over the many years you've been around. We may not necessarily always agree, which is fine. And the respectful way you deal with people from wherever they might be.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I suspect most of us appreciate the way you deal. As fair as you are, I've heard you interview people with incredibly tough questions, which is a good thing. And, oh, by the way, I'm blaming you for my Robert J. Sawyer streak that I've been on.
Oh, you have? He's brilliant, isn't he?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. WWW is done. I read Flash Forward, and I'm now busy with the Neanderthal Parallax.
Oh, yeah, they're all good books. Flash Forward was also good. They made a TV series out of that.
I've seen the TV series. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly fond of television adaptations of book.
Yeah, it was kind of quite divergent in key respects from the book. Have you read the book, Heidi?
Yeah.
I haven't read the book.
It's a good book. Yeah.
They have done a adaptation for a series, Virgin River, by Robin Carr for Netflix. And I was yanking out this big red beard that I have in season 1. I'm like, what did you do that for?
Yeah, it's always
but everything that's good, and I always stick to the books.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you listening, Brant, and thank you for doing that. And we've got your contribution coming up on the next show about wellness and eating and things, so that'll stimulate some discussion.
By the way, my Living Blindly, I can't remember, I'm half asleep. My Living Blindly Plus subscription has been contributed.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Not as much as I would have liked. Being where I am, unfortunately, the South African rand is currently pathetic.
Oh, gosh. So this is one area where New Zealand dollar doesn't help.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Yo, soup drinker.
Yeah.
How much is $1 New Zealand dollar in South African rand?
1 New Zealand dollar is about 11 South African rand and 36.
Right. Oh, dear. Ooh. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Well,
that is not very good. Just letting you know.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much. And that's exactly why we've done it the way we've done it. So, yeah.
And for that, I again say thank you.
All right. Good to hear from you.
Now, you had a wonderful Sunday.
Yeah, have a good Saturday night.
You had a wonderful night's sleep. No, it's Sunday morning.
Yeah, right.
It's after Saturday night.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
All right. Same to you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Click. Who we got next, Heidi?
Steve Plowman.
Okay. Welcome to you, Steve.
No, not really a question, Jonathan, really. Just a comment, if I might. I mean, firstly, I looked at the website. The website looks great.
Thanks.
And the podcast is amazing. I really enjoy it. So, and I appreciate, like everybody else says, what you do is great. But I just wanted to make a comment, if I may, and that is I hope the New Look podcast and yourself will continue to support and include wherever possible articles and content that aimed at those of us with a dual sensory loss.
Yes. I mean, I obviously have a dual sensory loss myself, so it's something very important to me. Sure. And I think it's often neglected in the world, so I'd like to try and keep doing that.
There really isn't much out there for us. So I really appreciate it when you do manage to include some applicable content. So yeah, just that was all I wanted to say, and just a thanks for all that you do.
Thank you, Stephen. I tell you what, when my number comes up to get new hearing aids at some point, no doubt I'll get very grumpy like I usually do during that process, and I'll certainly chronicle it on the podcast because it's normally full of trial and error and frustration. So you'll hear about it.
Sure, cool. I mean, talking of hearing aids, I'm an iPhone user, and I was trying to use a live listen facility at a board meeting, and I couldn't. My hearing aids wouldn't. I couldn't get them to work with the iPhone, and then I contacted the Apple accessibility telephone number, and they were telling me that my particular ones aren't Apple. What do you call it?
Right, they're not conformant to the made for iPhone standard.
That's the one.
Yeah,
exactly that. Yeah. So
that's a nuisance. There's a bit of lag in that live listen, though. I find it quite hard. I do use it sometimes, but there's just enough lag that when you talk, you sound like you're echoing back to yourself, and I find it quite disconcerting.
Yeah. I would do the same as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, thanks again.
Have a good night in the UK.
Yeah, we'll do. Cheers.
Bye.
Right.
And for those in the UK who are Archers fans, and you haven't heard the omnibus, or maybe you wait for the omnibus, you've got a cliffhanger at the end of the omnibus coming up, I tell you. All right. Who's next?
Anasio Correria?
Yep. Welcome. Do you remember? That's Julia's dad. Do you remember when Julia came over here and spent time with us?
That Julia.
Yes.
That's right. And Heidi was a single woman then, so congratulations on your wedding.
Thank
you. And Jonathan, congratulations. I waited for 2 hours. You mentioned a talk radio. I felt like I was waiting on talk radio waiting for so long. And I always wanted to say that phrase. I'm a long time listener, first time caller. But
yes.
But I am a long time listener, but not a first time caller. I go back to the Blind Line times, and again, I just wanted to congratulate you. The hour is late. I applaud your stamina and Heidi's, and good luck on with the podcast. And I look forward to being part of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's good to have kept in touch all these years. And nice to know that Julia is doing so well in her work now.
Is. Thank you so much. And thanks for the recording, by the way. That was a hit.
Yeah, that's great. All right.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. For those who don't know, Anicio's daughter Julia came to visit us, and Heidi and Julia are about the same age, so they hung out for a while. And Julia came on the Mosen Explosion, and it was all good fun. I was having terrible tech trouble that day. I didn't remember this until Anicio said, "Can you give me the recording?" And I listened back, and I thought, "Oh my word, I really was having tech trouble that day." I just got a new audio interface. Anyway, we'll crack on.
Next, we have Paul Jenkins.
Okay, Paul, welcome.
Greetings. Is the audio okay?
Yeah, greetings, Earthlings.
Okay. Yep. I just wanted to say hi there, Jonathan, and thank you to Heidi and Bonnie for your support, and congratulations on the new brand change. This sounds very exciting. My quick question, want to keep pithy here, is how, once I subscribe to the Fediverse, will I be able to make that feed play on my smart speaker? Will there be some direction down the road to do that, or is there a resource where I can go and learn how to make that happen?
Probably the best way to do it would be to paste it into a podcast app on your smartphone. And is it an iPhone that you have?
Yeah, I listen on my iPhone using Castro, but I do like to listen to podcasts as well on my Amazon devices,
right,
all over the house.
So
in that kind of.
There's no easy way that I'm aware of to paste an RSS feed in. I know that there's Pocket Casts on Sonos, which has possibly RSS support. But the easiest way would be just to AirPlay it. Once you have it in your podcast app, just try and use AirPlay to get the feed to play on a smart speaker
or Bluetooth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Lovely.
Happy Easter to all
you too.
You're celebrating.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
All right. How are we going, Heidi?
We are down to 17 people.
Oh, my word. I'll get through as many as I can before flaking out here.
We have Stanley Littrell.
Littrell, yep, okay. Who goes way back to the beginning. Hi, Stan.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Very good. This is Stan Warren Littrell. Of course, we've known each other for a long time.
Yes, I never forget a face.
Because, going way back to Main Menu, but I mean, we've talked over the years and had various discussions. And thank you for allowing me to make contributions to your podcast. And I'm going to try to make a contribution.
Thank you.
And of course, as you know, this year's not been the best year for me. But you know what? I'm alive and well, though.
Yeah, and that's what counts, isn't it? When your health gets called into question, you realize what's really important in life.
You really do. And one thing that might be a suggestion in terms of, as you call the soup drinker, and I haven't tried this yet, but I'm wondering if you'll be able to mention the name of the podcast, Living Blindfully, and the soup drinker, as you call it, will play it.
I hope so. So you can do that with Mosen at Large, but it's tricky.
I know.
And the reason for that is that it doesn't understand Mosen very well. And
it doesn't.
What I found was you could say, play the Mosen at Large podcast with Jonathan Mosen and it tends to work, but it's quite finicky and sometimes it doesn't. And so we won't know until we get the name changed, but I'm hoping that it will understand Living Blindfully a bit better.
I'm happy you can't hear the names that I call the soup drinker from time to time when she doesn't obey my commands.
Poor thing. Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to make, an appreciation for you. And Heidi, I remember from, my, when she was really a tiny munchkin, as
Yes,
they
indeed.
say.
Yes.
And I have fond memories of really, I really wanted to send along my best to you and wish you all the best on your new adventure. And
thank you.
Yeah.
And wish you best of all for your marriage and how that's going for you.
She's been married for like ever now. Is it 5 years or something?
5 years now, yes.
Yeah.
Holy no.
Yeah.
Ooh, I almost said something bad.
Holy soup drinker.
There.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to chime in and express my appreciation to all of you and Bonnie and all of your helpers that are out and about. And I guess I should be paying you for all the contributions I've made. And you've allowed me to be there.
Well, I appreciate the contributions you've made because without them, we wouldn't have the podcast we do. So I really appreciate that.
Well, and I'll disappear now. You take care.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Have a good weekend.
You do the same.
All right. Who we got next, Heidi?
Gary Hoff. Is it Hoff? Rhymes with Goff?
The famous Gary G. Welcome, Gary. Another South African. We've got a good South African contingent this evening.
Absolutely. It's going well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can indeed.
Oh, fantastic. Jonathan, first of all, well done on another brilliant venture for you.
Thank you.
And I really, really like the new name. It's got an uplifting feel to it. It really sounds positive and uplifting. And then what I want to make you an offer, and you're welcome to use it or not. And we will not mention any finances. It doesn't exist. If you need any audio editing done for demos or anything like that, you're welcome to contact me and let me have the files, and I'll be happy to help when you need.
Thank you. I know you're very good at that. So that's a great offer. I appreciate it.
There is something in our Dropbox that we share, obviously for Mushroom FM purposes, that you must still listen to.
I know. I'm hopeless. But yeah, thank you for that. Especially if you get up and running in Reaper, that'd be a significant thing.
Yeah, I've been doing a bit of work on that this week, been making some work of it, and I've joined the email list, and I've been fiddling a bit, but it's one hell of a learning curve.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's keep in touch. It's lovely to hear from you.
Fantastic. Now, just one more thing quickly about the Heidi TV series you spoke of. We had that in Afrikaans way back when, and I was listening to that. I think it was before the Dead Sea even became sick, and this was in the 80s, and it was done in Afrikaans. I remember the character that was blind. It was the boy's mother. The boy that was the goat herder who became Heidi's friend. And I remember she was blind. I don't remember the character in the wheelchair though.
Yeah, there was, and Heidi had was she raised by her grandfather or something?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because her parents died, and her aunt eventually climbed the mountain with her, took her to her grandfather.
Yeah, it was a good book. I need to read it again.
They had this huge St. Bernard dog.
Yeah. It was a good story. And then there was another one, Heidi Grows Up. I think that was the only one. There's not like, Heidi gets a mortgage or, Heidi goes to
I didn't
university.
even know there were books about it.
Yeah. Brilliant. All right. Thanks,
Heidi,
Gary.
congratulations on Florence, and all the best. I hope she's...
Florence isn't mine. She's David's, but I'll pass on the congratulations.
I thought Florence was yours.
No.
Sorry.
No, she can't take credit for Florence. Florence's dad would not be happy. No, it's my son's. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now that I've made that faux pas, I will catch you guys on the flip side on Mushroom.
Okay. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay. Auntie Heidi. You're Florence's Auntie Heidi?
Yes, Auntie Heidi.
Auntie Heidi. Yeah. What's next?
We have Larry Watkinson.
Oh, right then. Welcome, Larry. One of my favorite TV shows was called Hello, Larry, but it's very difficult to find it.
Hi there.
Hey, Larry.
one of your folks just a few minutes ago. I was going to tell you, it's great. First time caller, 2 hours and 25 minutes listener. Anyhow, thanks for having this. You had my heart beating a little bit, thinking, "Oh God, I hope he's not going to semi-retire and do something different." And
tend to my begonias or something.
I will give you one feedback. The guy that does the jingle with you on your old podcast, that's very aged, that's hours old of being retired. His jingles aren't as good as what you had manufactured. In fact, I think it detracts from your podcast. His voice, and then some of the music, it's not consistent. He plays different music in his background when he's advertising your podcast. So I really think you got to bring that to be consistent, because yours just sounds so professional.
Well, yeah, I mean, I produce. They came dry, so I produced the spot. So I'm probably partially to blame there.
Yeah, but anyhow, the other thing I was going to ask you, Jonathan. So I use my Victor Reader 3 to listen to your current podcast, and I just subscribed to your Plus while you guys were talking. Right. And so, will there be like a subscriber plus that I will be able to use in the podcast? Because I got to tell you, it's Sunday for you, but I love Saturday here in Olympia. You're my Saturday afternoon entertainment of podcasts, but I like listening on my Victor Reader 3. So how am I going to best do that?
So you should have, when you subscribed, received an email with your private RSS feed. And you will need to paste that into the Victor Reader stream in some way. I presume that there is a way to subscribe in the stream where you put the feed URL in, and then you can delete the old podcast feed because you don't need it twice, and you'll get the episodes at the time you've always got them.
When you figure that out, if you put that on your website, because I took a look at that and oh God, can I, get that moved over? So that would be one of the things I'd like to see on your website when the Danner falls. And then when you're talking about merch, so I can be, up with the modern kids. Yeah. I would rather have a baseball cap.
Okay.
Just because, baseball caps are a lot easier and more universal to kind of wear and say that. So that'd be kind of cool with it being embroidered, none of this paste on stuff. So embroidered baseball caps. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Larry. And I definitely need to take lots of advice about the merch. So thank you for that. And I will do some research about the stream situation so we can provide some step-by-step.
And I appreciate that. And thank you. I really found your feeds very valuable. Last time I seen you, you actually were down at, you were still working for Freedom Scientific, and we were in the CSUN conference in the old, it was San Diego was the last time I'd seen you.
Oh yeah, at CSUN, yeah.
They don't do it down there no more. Have you
been
over to Anaheim yet to theirs?
Yeah, I was at Anaheim in 2019. That was my last CSUN.
And that was, and I didn't get to make it to that one, but anyhow, there's other people who want to talk to you, and thank you so much for letting me on, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Larry. Take care.
You bet.
Bye.
Now we have Andrew Tutty.
Okay, let's just get Andrew on board. Welcome, Andrew.
Hello, Jonathan and Heidi.
Hi, Andrew.
I just wanted to congratulate you on this new move. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
I really like the search engine aspect on your website to find information past, because otherwise you got to go through all the episodes and go, is this the one?
It's a hassle, yeah.
Not that I haven't done it in the past, but this is a lot better. I just wanted to let you know I'm calling from Robert J. Sawyer country almost. I'm in Kitchener, area code 519. So he's an Ottawa boy, apparently. Anyway, I think it's awesome what you're doing. And I had my heart skipped a beat too when I got that email message about the future of Mosen at large. I'm like, uh-oh. And so I was quite pleasantly surprised and relieved this morning.
Well, that's good to hear.
The news came out. So once again, congratulations on everything, your family, your new grandchild, all of that. And I look forward to hearing some more episodes. Oh, by the way, I still am on Clubhouse. And I was listening to a gentleman yesterday, and you may know his name, Dave Leo Baker.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yep. Mm-hmm. He also works for Freedom.
He did. He's not working.
Oh, he doesn't
anymore.
now. Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
He's retired.
Yeah.
But he has a room with his keyboard, and I was listening to some of his fabulous music, and we had a little chat. So anyway, I just wanted to, I figured you might know the name. So anyway, I'll let other people speak, and you have a great, great Sunday.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks.
You too. And when it gets to you, I can tell you we're talking from tomorrow and the future is bright.
We now have Tim Cummings.
All right. Now here's someone who also goes way back. So we're going way back.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon from rainy Seattle, Washington, Jonathan. And
you're in Seattle?
Heidi,
is that where you are now?
Yes, we have moved. I haven't talked to you in so long. We moved in November. My wife got a job at the lighthouse, so we moved all the way across the country. And
gosh, what an adjustment!
So yeah, I'm still adjusting. But the good thing is, Jonathan, I have a new studio, so I'm very excited about that. I have a nice walk-in closet here, and it's very good. And Heidi, I just want to say, in Boston, we would say that you're wicked smart. So.
Wicked smart.
Wicked
she
smart.
Is, yes. Yeah, she certainly is that.
She and lovely person. So Jonathan, and I just subscribed, by the way. So
thank you.
And my only question is, are you going to keep? And I know you're not doing the live podcast every week, but are you going to keep the blind podcaster feed going and put new things in there when stuff comes up?
Yes, that's a separate project. So I really want, I guess all of this has been about trying to give something back to the community. And I'd love to see the blind podcasting space continue to flourish. So yeah, I'd be glad to do that and put stuff into that feed. I'd like to see others put stuff into that feed as well.
Well, I know. I keep saying I should get a kickback from Zoom for all the PodTrack P4s I helped them sell.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, you are the influencer. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. But congratulations, and I look forward to many more podcasts. And I haven't had a chance yet. My next thing is to go play with that new voice thing that you talked about, where you can clone your own voice. I have to.
11 Labs.
Clone my own voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of these days I have to get some time to do that.
It didn't do a good job with Heidi's voice. It gave her an American accent.
I did sound very weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, congratulations, and Heidi, congratulations on your new marriage, and just happy Easter to both of you. And Jonathan, we'll talk soon.
Same to you, Tim. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Heidi, you haven't got like a new marriage I don't know about, have you?
No, it's the same one. I think people get me confused with David. We're so alike.
Yeah, right. Yeah. 5 years you've been married. 5 years.
5 years, yes. Yeah. We have Kevin Chow.
Okay. Hi, Kevin. Welcome.
Hello. How are you guys?
Yeah. Hi.
Great. Definitely congratulations and thank you for all the amazing work you've done. I remember when I first heard you was back when I was in high school. When you're back with HumanWare and learning about the Braille notes at the time.
Now no one has brought up HumanWare yet in this whole thing, right? So you go back to the Braille Note Empower days and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's really cool having the tutorial and you guiding through just all the different features. I remember my teacher for visually impaired at the time just like started me off with the Braille Note and just like, okay, here's some of the basics. And I took it home and listened to your whole thing and came back the next day knowing the ins and outs of everything you walked us through. She's like, how'd you figure all this stuff out? I was like, there's a pretty cool tutorial that it comes with. And yeah, so definitely I've followed you kind of since then. And speaking of your last CSUN, I had the cool opportunity. I tried to meet you at different NFB and CSUN conferences over the years, but finally was able to connect with you at when you were with Ira back in 19.
Right.
The last season you went to, but
And I bet you were one of those precocious kids at high school who knew a lot more than the teachers did pretty quickly. And so you would end up teaching the teachers or doing things that the teachers didn't know how to unravel.
Yeah, I did end up teaching some of the other students too. So whenever we had anything to do with tech or even going in front of the like district board of like them to understand the impact and the necessity to lesson technology, they would have me like come do the demonstrations or teach or kind of help provide some of those support. So definitely from an educational impact, you've made a huge impact, and over like my professional wise as well, definitely have been able to learn and kind of you've made a tremendous impact. And it was really cool to be able to meet you in person a few years ago at your last season before the pandemic. But was able to connect with you at the IRA booth, I believe. So that was really cool. Two things I really love the name. First off, just very kind of makes sense. It's very like obvious. It's like, why hasn't that been a thing before? But of course, you've always been great at that. Two topics I was wondering if you might consider. I know there was some talk earlier about commentators for blind sports, but curious about blind athletes. Kind of, I guess, either at least I haven't heard many contributions or kind of interviews with blind athletes. There's a whole host of different ones. I myself have been into like downhill skiing and paraclimbing competitively, and so just
it's a good idea. We should look into that. I've got a little list of ideas for the show, so I will add that one. It's a good one.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. Oh, not my fader there. All right. How are we going in the hand raise department, Heidi? How many have we got?
11.
Okay. We'll do our best. All right.
Next we have Clinton Lindgren.
Oh, yes, indeed. I know that name. It's funny, when you've been around in this community long enough, you know most of these names. Hi, Clinton.
I had a little trouble unmuting because I am so used to Microsoft Teams now that I automatically do the Control Shift M.
It's hard when you have to be by conference-all, isn't it? I do that all the time. I push the wrong key and Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, and I don't know if you know this, but we actually go back a lot longer or further back than you know about, because way back in sometime between 2008 and 2010, you recorded a tutorial for people that were going to be on Mushroom FM.
Yeah.
Which I wound up using because I was not Mushroom FM, but I was a volunteer for Omni Media Networks, which was a local radio reading service provider here. And they had several streams, and one of them was a Christian station they were trying to set up called the Beyond Channel, which I wound up running for 10 years. And that tutorial gave me enough information to figure out how to do the whole audio streaming thing.
Oh, brilliant.
Because so that worked out good. Except I didn't use, I used very difficult software, like the whole thing ran with the Zara Radio, if you ever played with that.
No, I don't know that one.
That is, it's kind of the same idea as Station Playlist, but it was free. And somebody had created a JAWS script in Spanish for it that made it so I could access like the scheduling parts of it and everything like that. But we ran it with that, and I did all my editing with Goldwave.
Oh wow! Wow, that does sound intense. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, it had a run for about 10 years, and then we went off at the end of 2018. So I have a non-podcast related thing. I was wondering, so back in December, right before the Christmas countdown, the Mushroom FM and the Mushroom Escape soup drinker skill has stopped working here.
I can't account for that because I use it every day and it's working here. So I hate problems
not the
like
only
this.
thing. And I noticed that nobody else had noticed anything was wrong, but basically it just gives you the silent treatment. I mean, it's acting like it's doing it, but it doesn't do it.
Well, I guess the workaround is that there is TuneIn and some other apps, but that's extraordinary.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how to explain that because it continues to work for me.
Yeah. So and I've noticed that it seems to also be related to like if you go to the Mushroom FM website and you try to use the player, that also doesn't work.
Ah, okay. So it sounds to me then like a port is being blocked somewhere. That's what it sounds like. The port that Mushroom FM and Mushroom Escape are transmitting on, they're not standard HTTP or HTTPS ports. I forget the port numbers off the top of my head. So it may be an issue either with your ISP or a router change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I can get around it obviously by using, the URL to force the issue.
It's strange though. It's
and
curious.
TuneIn. So if I play Mushroom FM with TuneIn on the Soup Drinker, that works.
Okay, so
half the time.
Yeah, that complicates the matter. So you are getting through, just not with the skill and the online web player.
Right. Well, so I get through on Mushroom FM part of the time, but otherwise what'll happen is it'll play. TuneIn will do its commercials.
Right.
And it'll loop commercials.
Yeah. Okay.
So you get like two of them, and they just play over and over and over.
Right. Okay.
And that it does that consistently with Mushroom Escape. Mushroom FM will come through maybe about half the time.
That definitely sounds like something over which we don't have any control, but I blame the government. Whatever government you want to blame, I blame it.
Oh, the government. Okay.
Yeah,
I was just wondering if you'd heard anybody else having that.
I have not, but I'll keep an ear out for it in case we've got a wider issue, but I have not heard that before.
Okay. Yeah. No, that definitely doesn't work. It's definitely the silent treatment all the way.
Oh dear. It's ghosting you. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Right before the down too, I had to figure out how to solve that.
Oh, wish you luck. Yeah, I wish I could be more help, but it does sound like a local issue of some kind, I think.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
I'd share that with you.
Thanks, Clint. Right. Good to hear from you.
Thanks very much. Okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Let's go to the next contributor.
We have Chris Westbrook.
Yes, indeed. Who also goes way back to the Blind Line days. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for all you do. And I also subscribe to the Plus thing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did you get the RSS feed okay?
Yeah, it came through in my email. I haven't pasted it into my iPhone yet, but I will do that at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just really like the name. Also, if you wanted to do an episode on cochlear implants, I would be up for that. Like an interview. I know you did something with Jim Snowberger a while ago. I wonder how he's doing. I haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah, I've been meaning to contact you because you've put an RSS product together, right?
Yeah, I don't know how you found that, but yeah.
Yeah, you emailed me about that, and I added it to my.
About that? Okay.
Yeah, and I added it to my list of ideas, and we've just been deluged with ideas. So I would like to get to it because I think that'll be interesting to people.
Yeah, I haven't done any work on it in a while, but and I don't really have any users. Although I did have somebody help me visually, tidy it up and everything too. But yeah, back in my coding days, I don't do any coding anymore. I haven't done any coding for a while. I should get back into that again. Now I'm an accessibility engineer, so that's kind of a cool job.
It does sound like a cool job and an impactful one, making a difference.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm testing websites for accessibility. I'm actually on the QA side, so when companies say they fixed it, I have to go back and verify that it's actually fixed. So that can be interesting because they don't always fix it when they say they fixed it.
Yeah, all right.
So, yeah, I'm sure you know all about that.
I sure do, yeah. That's great to hear from you, Chris. And thanks for listening all these years to various things. Because as I say, you go back to the Blind Line days. So that's a long time ago.
I do indeed. Yeah. And I had hearing aids then, and now I have a cochlear implant, and a lot of things have changed. But
all right, well, let's keep in touch.
I just wanted to say hi.
Yeah, sounds good. We will keep in touch, and I appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, take care. Of course, back in the Blind Line days, we would use this thing called Spider Phone. Man, that was a while ago now. Here we are on Zoom. All right, Heidi.
Next we have Aaron John Dizon.
Who I want to say he's in the Philippines, but I think, Aaron, have you relocated somewhere? Am I right about that? Someone's relocated.
Yeah, I relocated now in Milan, Italy.
That's
so it's
right.
Past,
12. Yeah. Oh, well.
AM here, so I have to go outside the room because I might wake up the wife and the baby. So
could you like Dropbox me some top quality premium Italian pizza?
Oh, of course, sure.
Not exactly low carb, but you know. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to make a suggestion regarding the yearly subscription because I still wanted you to think about that for us who don't have a fixed income that might want to give and wanted to be still subscribed to that monthly.
Right. Okay. I mean, I will have a chat to the Pinecast guys about it. It makes me just a little bit nervous for the reasons I explained earlier, but I understand what you're saying too.
Yeah, thank you very much for your work. And I really can't believe I'm talking to you and Heidi live right now. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. And how's the baby? How old is the baby now?
He's 1 year old. Actually, his birthday was on April 4th, and my birthday will be coming up on the 12th. So,
happy birthday for then. Oh, he's going to get into everything shortly. He's going to be just, oh man, you have that to look forward to. I remember when Heidi was about 2 and she came and said, "Look what I've done, Dad." And of course I couldn't look at what she'd done, but it turns out she'd drawn in crayon all over the wall of the bedroom.
Oh my.
Very pretty pictures it was.
I thought Richard was the one who drew all over the wall.
Am I misappropriating? I thought it was you. Okay.
Well,
maybe.
The story I remember is that Richard drew all over the wall, but then I went and told you guys about it.
That's right. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry for incriminating you there, Heidi.
I know.
You might not push the button.
I just noticed that when I make a contribution, like on the New Year show, it opens up a lot of family discussions on your side,
Right. All right. Have a lovely night.
Anyway, thank you very much for your work. And we'll talk to you soon again.
Sounds
good.
Thank you. Take care. Bye. It's such a good age when they're that age. Oh, my word. All right. Who's next?
So we have someone who's coming in through an iPhone. They just identify as iPhone.
Yep.
I've sent the unmute request, so whoever you are.
Hello, iPhone. Hello. Going into the void there.
Hello. iPhone. Hello. iPhone is Linda McLeod from the Bay Area in beautiful, sunny California.
Oh, man. With the BART Rapid Transit System.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. They have a new station in my town in San Jose, California.
Incredible. So you know the way to San Jose then?
I know the way to San Jose because I live here.
Marvelous.
Jonathan, congratulations for your wonderful change and adventure. I had serious technical difficulties trying to get in on this call. And so I missed the first 25 minutes of it, much to my chagrin. So I just wanted to be sure there's going to be another option for me to understand and listen to the story behind your change.
When I get off here, I'm going to put together a highlights package of this, and my full presentation will be in the podcast feed. So if you listen to Mosen at Large like you always do, you will hear the full presentation there. Okay, that's great. And, I enjoyed listening to all of your cast of characters call in because I recognize all of their voices and
and I enjoy that. But what I appreciate from you is your advocacy for all of us, and your honesty about our struggles and how we can overcome them, and your constant encouragement of all of that, and all of us. And I really feel better every day knowing you're out there advocating for our community.
That's
so,
very, very kind of you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, your work is not going unnoticed, and actually it really inspires a lot of us to do the same thing. It inspires me all the time. So I learned so much from you, and I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Have a lovely Saturday.
Saturday afternoon, about 4:00 now.
Indeed.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Heidi.
Okay. We now have Slantonic.
Yep. Welcome.
Okay, I'm introducing myself for everyone who's listening to this webinar. I'm Slantonic from Colombia. And I wanted to congratulate you for your excellent project that you are beginning.
Thank you.
And actually, I've been listening to you since the times of FScast. When FScast was hosted by you.
Right.
And
10 years since I stopped doing that, nearly. Oh no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Sorry, no, it was 10 years since my job changed, but I was hosting that until 2018. That's right.
2018. Yeah, that was when you finished.
Right.
But I've been listening to it since 2009, so to speak.
Well, you do go way back.
And yeah, that's it. It was really sad for me when you left the podcast. But then some years ago, a friend of mine, it was 2021, so to speak, a friend of mine told me about Mosen at Large.
Mm-hmm.
And I started listening to you. Then, back then I started listening to you, and it was, and it's really fun. It's really fun. I have to say, I mean, it's magnificent.
Well, thank you.
I just really wanted to congratulate you for this new project that you're beginning about Living Blindfully. And I wanted to ask you something. Now that this podcast is changing, I wanted to ask if do I have to subscribe, or do you have to pay a subscription in order to continue listening to the podcast? I mean, because I have Mosen at Large in my Qcast, this podcatcher for Windows.
They had an old saying in the old days of TV, I think, where they would say, "Do not adjust your set." That's what they used to say. It'll all change by itself. So what will happen for most podcast clients is that by the end of the coming week, the week that's coming up now, you will find that Mosen at Large has automatically changed to Living Blindfully without you having to do anything. But even if that doesn't happen, you will still get the new episodes. So no, there's not a thing that you have to do.
I see. So it means that so this subscription is, I mean, yeah, because I thought I understood from the beginning that I had to pay a subscription or something. I mean, for getting access to the
right. So Living Blindfully Plus members will get the podcast 3 days earlier. So let me be clear about this. The Living Blindfully Plus members will get the podcast at the same time as it's usually come out. For those who are not Plus members, you'll still get the same podcast, but it will be 3 days later. And to get that, you won't need to adjust anything. So Living Blindfully episode 224 will come out to non-subscribers of the Plus service on Tuesday in that part of the world, in the part of the world that you are. So instead of coming out on a Saturday, it will now come out in the free version on the Tuesday, but it will be the same podcast.
Oh, I see. So it means that supposing that you publish an episode on the 16th, for example, on the 16th, then I'm going to get it on the 19th.
That's right. But it will be the same episode and you won't be deprived of any content.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before I finish, I just wanted to say thank you for giving me the chance to talk to you. It was actually a dream for me to talk to you, after a long time.
Well, thank you. Well, it's lovely to talk to you too. Have you got the free JAWS going in Colombia still, or do they do that JAWS license thing that the government was paying for?
Yeah, we still have it.
Oh, cool.
We still have it.
Well, I wish
Actually,
our
I'm
government would do
using
that.
just 23, right? I'm using just 2023 right now.
That is so cool. Yeah, that's brilliant. All right. Well, Slan, thank you very much, and I hope you'll stay listening.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, take care. How are our numbers of raised hands?
We're at 8.
Okay, 8 is enough. It was a good old show. Right.
We have Ayula
Oh, yeah, in Nigeria, I think. Yep, so we'll... Welcome.
Hello.
Nice to talk to
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yeah, I can, yes.
Yes. I'm surprised you remember that I'm in Nigeria, Lagos to be specific. Well, I'm excited to be on the call. And like many people, I want to congratulate you for the next step in the podcast's journey so far.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to ask that, okay, so I joined in late. First and foremost, I'm curious, will I still be able to listen to the Bonnie Bulletin as part of the Living Blindfully podcast? And if I subscribe, will I be able to share the RSS, let's say within 2 podcast apps, or is it restricted to a single app?
If you subscribe, you get your own personal RSS feed, and you... Oh, so sorry, I'm just making sure I understand the question. Are you saying, for example, on Twitter or something like that? Is that right?
No, I mean, so I'm an Android user and I use Podcast Addict, but I also check podcasts on Spotify.
Yes.
If I were to use the RSS in, say, Podcast Addict, can I still use the same in, say, Spotify? Maybe because I like to interchange between where I listen to my shows, for instance.
Right. So last I looked at Podcast Addict, which was a while ago, it looked like a really powerful podcast app that did pretty much everything. So I'm very confident that Podcast Addict would let you subscribe, you paste your personal RSS feed into it, and then you can delete the public Living Blindfully feed. And what that would mean is that you would get the episodes in Podcast Addict at the same time as subscribers. You'd get it 3 days early, and you would just be able to go along and listen in Podcast Addict the way you always have.
I think part of the question is, can you submit the RSS feed into 2 different apps and have it work?
I'm sorry. All right. Yes. As long as they're compatible, you can use it as for your personal use in as many players as you like.
Oh, thank you very much.
I'm not sure if you can paste an RSS feed into Spotify, though. But,
well, I'm not very sure about that, but then just wanted to know.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Heidi.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Lovely to hear from you.
Yes, I wish you a lovely Sunday. It's almost midnight here.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, we're going all around the world with this call-in part.
We are.
And who are we going to next?
We have a phone caller. There's only one of you in the queue. So if you're the phone caller with your hand up.
Yes, that's me, Shirley.
Hey, Shirley Roberts.
Hi, how are you?
Marvelous.
One of these days I'm going to have to tell you what's been going on with us this year. We've had a tough year, Jonathan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I'm glad you guys are doing well. Yeah. I have a couple of things. Number one, I haven't seen recently when I get the notice of your podcast being out. I used to get a notice of the audio thing, and I was getting a separate one about like the text, and I haven't seen that recently about the text download.
Yeah.
So that was one comment.
Right, my bad. I will fix that. I've been a bit remiss with all the work I've been doing on the new service, so I will make sure that we will have a new announcements list. Everybody who's on the current one will get transferred to the new one, and I'll make sure that I put the transcript notices on there.
Oh, that's great. That's very, very, very much appreciated. And I wanted to say, for the person that said they were having trouble with the Mushroom FM skill, I've noticed, and I know they said they were having other problems too, but I've noticed with the skill recently, every once in a while, mine says something like, I can't open that now, or something like that. And then I have to enable the skill again.
Okay. So when all else fails, turn it off and back on again.
Yeah. I have done that a couple of times too. So I really appreciate that as well. And oh gosh, I know there was one more thing. Now, what was it? Of course, I would forget. Oh, I wanted to know. I didn't get to listen to your podcast about the Optima, and I was curious. Did they say if there was going to be any possibility of having a Braille keyboard input on that, or is it only going to be the QWERTY?
It is still in the archives to hear if you'd like to, but what they want to do is they will offer full Braille input throughout the whole thing using keys on the QWERTY keyboard. So you'll be able to use SDF and JKL.
Right, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And I knew that it was still available. I've got it. I just haven't played it.
I know, so
really
many hours in the
appreciate
day.
that. And
yeah.
yeah, I know. I just don't understand why.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate both what you and your daughter both are doing. So thank you so much. Thanks, Heidi, for all your support as well.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you guys have a good weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Oh, yeah. We go way back to the ACB radio days. My word. Whoa, that was a long time ago now. Okay.
We now have Thomas Upton.
Okay. We're going to geek out with Thomas Upton in Massachusetts.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah, I have a few things. First, some what I call victory comments. Yes, victory for Jonathan. So, congratulations on your brand from Mosen at Large to Living Blindfully. In fact, I may send you a virtual surprise and celebration.
Oh boy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you truly are. So, Jonathan, you truly are the father of blindness radio. You truly pioneered radio for the blindness community for over the past 24 years. So from Blind Line to ACB Radio to Main Menu to Mushroom FM, you name it. You really are the true pioneer in blindness radio. Thank you so much.
Wow, and that whole 24 years, Thomas, I've been living next door to Alice. That's the sad thing. Yeah.
Now, second, all right, this is where we start to get random. Second, for those CDs where you want to get for those who want to listen to those Main Menu episodes that are on CDs, I get the feeling, now folks, please don't protest for this, but I get the feeling that many ACB Radio, now known as ACB Media, listeners, past and present, will all go on and chant, "Get those CDs! Get those CDs!
There's only so many hours in a day,
CDs. man." Now, please, all you listeners, if you're all attending, please don't protest. Just don't start a riot. Jonathan will get those CDs ASAP. So please don't protest. Now, third and finally, for the rebrand to Living Blindfully, it is a lot easier for the Amazon Echo, or as you mischievously called it, the soup drinker. It's a lot easier for the Echo, and the way I tell to play Mosen at Large originally, I would just simply say, ALEXA. I would spell your last name. Play the MOSEN at Large podcast on TuneIn, and it would get it going. So Jonathan, in fact, one thing. I think it would be cool if, since you were associated with ACB Radio for the past few years, I think ACB would be happy to start a new award in honor of you, with you as the first honorary, the Jonathan Mosen Award.
Oh my God, I don't think so.
So, Jonathan, you mean the world to us. Thank you so much, and please keep on rocking.
All right, Thomas, you too, and whatever caffeinated beverage you're on, I would like some at this point, having been talking all
Sure
this
thing.
time.
I'll serve you some in the future.
Yeah, right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you
so
very much. Okay, how we doing, Heidi?
We have 3 hands left.
Okay, that's a bit manageable, and then we'll call it a day because everybody's been very patient.
Yes. We have Tim Appleby.
Okay, we're going to Canada. Is it Nova Scotia in Canada, I think?
Yes, actually it is.
Yeah.
Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
To the person that wanted to find out how to copy something onto the stream, the Humanware Companion.
Okay, so how does it work?
You just take it and use the tools portion of the Humanware Companion, and you just go down to copy URL, feed URL, or whatever it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, you just copy the podcast feed of whatever onto the stream that way.
Okay.
And it'll.
Right. That's cool. I will see if I can get some step by step to put on the website, but that's very useful. So because I don't own one, so I'm totally oblivious. So thank you. That's very helpful.
I know. I've done it before. I've actually done it many times over.
Okay.
And it's
Brilliant.
pretty easy if you know how to do it.
Wonderful.
From one person to another, and it's been done.
Excellent. No, thank you, Tim. I really appreciate that, and thank you for listening all these years because it's been a while.
Oh, it's been a while, and congratulations on 5 years, Heidi.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, 5 years. Wow.
5 years, and
what's
also,
5? Like 25 is 25
I know,
is silver.
I've been.
50
I know
is gold.
Stephanie. I know Stephanie and I got married in 2018 as well.
Yeah.
We got married in September of 2018.
Your first year's paper. So what's the 5th year? What do they? What do they call that?
Because we got like I said, we got married on September 8th, 2018.
Oh,
so yeah,
congratulations.
Star Trek Day is what we call it.
Yeah. Oh, I'll have to find out what the 5th anniversary is known as. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
nevertheless, it works.
It's the wooden
Wooden
anniversary.
Wooden anniversary.
Wooden anniversary.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't have known that until now. Yeah. Lovely.
Anyway,
okay.
Good luck. Have fun on the new Living Blindfully.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
I actually had the website up, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh, cool.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Cheers. Okay. And now.
Charlie J. Paraha?
Oh, my goodness. That's a blast from the past. I actually went to school with Charlie. That was a while ago now. Welcome, Charlie.
How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you doing?
Very well. It's been obviously many years since we've seen each other.
But you don't look a day older.
Yeah, you're the same.
Yeah.
Hey, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I've listened to you for probably about 9 months. And fantastic work. So I just keep it short and brief. Thanks, Jonathan. You're doing well.
Well, it's really
Thanks,
great to
Heidi.
hear your voice.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much to both of
All
you
right.
and the rest of the family.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, keep in touch. Be interested to see what you're up to and all those good things.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All
Jonathan.
right.
Thanks.
Wow.
Bye.
So we're on to our lucky last, are we?
Well, we would be, but more people have put their hands up, so I don't know how you want
so
to deal with that.
I am going to take one more, and then I really have to stop because where are we? We're kind of getting quite. It's taken a while, but I hope I've got to most people. So we'll take the one person who had their hand raised a while ago.
Okay, this is Mike Calvo.
Oh, well, there we go. What a way to finish. What a grand finale. He's like the main act here.
Oh, dude, I've been listening to you since I was in kindergarten.
I know.
I
And
remember
I was in
you
kindergarten
went to my
too.
school on career day and all that.
Yeah.
Heidi, you are the apple of Daddy's eye? Question mark.
Yeah.
But no, you got to buy Living Blindly. You got to buy the domain, man, because you know how many people are going to fat finger that.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to add my voice to the chorus of thanking you, dude, for all you do. Don't change a thing except for whatever you want. I mean, you have been, if we truly have an online blind community, and I do believe we do, you've been a huge participant in that. And I remember being a young entrepreneur and just watching this guy from New Zealand who got involved in politics, who, I got angry and you got smart. And I just got to say, thank you so much, dude, for what you do. I'm glad that you're monetizing. I know that there's those of us that even if it's $1, give what you can. But, for those of us who do want to support what you're doing, you stop, iPhone. You make my Saturday, man. I share a cigar with you every Saturday. I know you don't smoke, but thank you so much again for all you do. And, know that we appreciate you. And yes, I am getting off the keto for Easter.
Oh, well, I'm not, but thank you. And also thanks to
you
you for your, no,
pizza.
no, it's a slippery slope, but thank you for your support too with Numa Solutions and the transcripts, because the transcripts mean an awful lot to people. So we're really grateful that you do that.
No. Yeah, no, we're honored to do so in any way that we can do more. Please do. And I want to encourage anybody listening, let's get the blind businesses going. Let's get we've got a community. It may not be a whole heck of a lot of money that we have in our community, but we got some. And that's how it starts. And no one knows that better than you, my friend. Nobody knows that better than you when you started with a very small audience and now it's global and thousands. And thank you.
It's been
thank you so much.
Wonderful journey. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate that. And it's been great chatting with you and various things that you've contributed to our community over the years, all the way back to the radio webcaster. And I loved my radio webcaster because that was how we would blast ACB radio around the house in those days.
And I actually heard the main menu for Freedom Box a couple of days ago, and just it was great. It was awesome. It was awesome. Boy, did we sound so much younger.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, we were.
But
all right.
Thank you, man.
Take care.
Keep doing what you're doing. You're rocking, bro.
Take
you.
Take
care.
All
Heidi,
right.
You're awesome.
Oh,
Cheers.
thank you.
Yes. and we will stop because we do have to stop sometime. I'm very grateful to everybody who stuck it out this long because we've been here for over 3 hours and I had no idea that we would be. And I've got to put the podcast version together because there will be people who did not attend this webinar who are keen to hear. But thank you very much. You can be in touch if you want to make a contribution to the podcast. You can now email opinion@livingblindfully.com. And if you want to talk about advertising or anything relating to Living Blindfully Plus, then the admin email is contact@livingblindfully.com. And thank you, Heidi, for everything, for sitting through this for the last 3 hours and for your help with the website. It's been amazing.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah. Good. You're going to have your egg now.
Yes, I will.
Yes. All right. We will close it there. Thank you all so much. We'll stay in touch.